Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Logbox. I'm here with Tonicmole, the king of comics. How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Love the Superman shirt.
Yeah.
So let's not beat around the bush or anything. We're here because Tonicmole is going to be launching issue number 11 of Saving the World.
Yes.
What time is that going live?
It's 1 p.m. Central in 30 minutes. So whatever that is everywhere else.
Yeah. So so right now at Eastern Standard Time, it's 1:30. So at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we'll just say a half hour. Everybody understands a half hour.
In 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes, we're going to be launching Saving the World number 11. And I've been making no secret about how much I love this comic. The Tonicmole's all right, but the comic is really good. You know, I forget which issue of Alterna Comics. There was an ad, and I was like, yeah, this looks interesting. And ads work. They got me. I mean, I see a Burger King ad, and me and my wife are like, let's go to Burger King. So I'm very susceptible to suggestion. So anybody, all you got to do is just say something to me. But look, I'm being funny, but I got the comic. I think I started on issue 5, right? I think I missed a couple.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I ordered, and for whatever reason, I forgot to order issue number 5.
Oh, it was sold out.
It was sold out. Yes. Something like that. So I ordered, I got 1 to 6, but no 5.
Yeah.
Tonicmole, it drove him crazy that he threw in an issue 5, and I was like, a little gesture like that. That's all it took. So,
well, and that's like my tip with all crowdfunders. The stuff happens kind of like that. I had some dinged up number 5s, but no decent ones, and so I didn't want to put them up for sale. But I throw that in because you have to have number 5. Right. But and then if I fumble on something, just make it up to the people. It's no big deal, Like I was a little late on shipping something out. So I put in some rare variants or something I had, or I give them credit on my store. There's all types of things you can do that, for some reason, a lot of crowdfunders just go, I don't know. And it's like, well, do something for the people. Jesus.
Right. Yeah. We're small business. We got to appreciate the customers that we have.
Exactly.
I've been selling Heroic Tales pint glasses. Everybody likes a good beer. It's got the patriarch symbol on the back, and I've been shipping them all over the country. I don't know what's been going on. Like for weeks, nobody bought it, and all of a sudden, the past 2 weeks, people have been buying them like crazy. One of them came broken, and it was the closest one. I sent them to Canada. I sent them to Arizona. I sent them to California. I sent one to Maine. And the one, I think it went to New Jersey, broke. So the guy was nice about it. I sent him another one. He offered to repay the shipping. What do you want me to do?
Right.
I blame I was gonna say I blame my wife because she's sitting right here. She packs them. But it was the only box that I didn't write fragile on it, so I blame myself.
Yeah. Well, certain like California, everything's slower once it hits across that state line and stuff. And so, it really depends on who's handling it.
Yeah. So let me, guys, my throat is killing me today. So Tonicmole's going to have to do most of the talking. But I thought this was important to launch this comic. So this is issue number 11. How long have you been working on this? What is your rate of fire here?
Okay, so in print, I started in 2020 of February. So it's about 3 or 4 a year, which, for a lot of like self-published stuff, like Ninja Turtles was 3 a year for the first 3 or 4 years or something like that until they got the cartoon. Then they hired a bigger staff. But so it's been about 3 or 4 a year. And then I always have like little extras like spinoffs or something. And so 4 years, 11. But now the first issue I originally wrote and drew in like 2008 or 2009. And I put it in a little plastic deal, and kind of gave up on comics. But then when I I saw crowdfunding and stuff, I pulled all those pages out. I took a picture of them with the iPad I just got and re-inked them, and then rewrote the script to try to fix it. But what I was doing, it's one of those things where, like, everybody who's doing their first issue, I tell them, you're going to really just drive yourself crazy. And
Oh, yeah, tell me about it. I just want to give a shout out to Genuine Comics. Perfect 10 got here in perfect condition.
nice.
So I just got all of those. I'll be reading.
That's one I need to check out. Perfect 10 that I haven't checked out yet.
Yeah.
I've been trying to catch up because I'm terrible at reading comics ever at all. I think I'm just writing and drawing them. And so, because I just sat down and reading all of Wolf and Batsy. I'd read the first few issues, but I never read the whole thing. And so
it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm getting caught up on that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Brian Bow is another friend of mine, another guy I discovered through Alterna Comics. Wolf and Batsy, about a werewolf and a vampire. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And he did I loved when I was a kid in like probably the early 80s, because it was pretty early on. They had the little ads for like the X-ray glasses and all that type of crap.
Yes.
And I always wanted to have one of those fake pages, but I never got around to it. But I was reading his. I was like, man, he did it like full tilt too.
Yeah.
Like he has like 2 pages of those ads and stuff. It was pretty cool.
I asked him if he has time, but he's swamped. So I'm hoping either in issue 1 or issue 2 of Heroic Tales that he's going to put in a fake.
Of
all those Funhouse stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's the goal of my comic is like a Bronze Age feel, and part of the Bronze Age feel is those ads. I'm making Tonic cry. I'm sorry.
No, my eyelash got in my. Okay, there it is.
So if Brian, God willing, has time, he'll do it, because that guy's a workhorse. He's always working on his comic.
Yeah.
He said I sent him the link, him and Fabrizio Aiello of Horse H. Hoover, to pop in and give support for the launching of your comic.
Nice.
They have daytime jobs, so who knows if they'll come in.
Jobs, bleh.
I know.
No, I talked to Brian quite a bit on Twitter and stuff like that. Yeah, and we traded comics, which is how I mainly get comics. When you make a living on comics, you can't actually afford to buy them, and so I just trade with other creators. But there are so many projects out there that a lot get buried.
Right.
And so kind of digging through that, I've finally kind of started to get all these like little gems, like these amazing ongoing series that don't get nearly enough coverage and stuff.
Yeah, I do. I spend all day, I work a day job, and then I come home and I'm reading comics, and I do my channel, and I'm always looking for stuff, and things still slip by.
Yeah.
Shadow Punk, I don't know his real name. I just know his comic book title. He sent me his comic, and I was like, I felt so bad, because this is something I easily would have paid for. It was that good.
Right. Yeah, and that, also, because I've kind of been collecting up series that I'm like, no, this is legitimately good. Like, this is just good stuff, regardless of how it's distributed or where it's at. Cirque with Big Titty Goth Girls from Mars, I think it is. His stuff's really good.
What's the name of the comic?
Big Titty Goth Girls is there, I think, from Mars. I think that is. Or maybe, yeah, it's something of that sort. But yeah, his art is amazing. And but he's kind of one of those guys that build a following just off his art and then launch the comic. And I think he's maybe he was on Webtoons originally. So he has a massive following. So he don't really need my help.
What about Illustrator Monk? He has that Phoebe the Witch.
Yeah, well,
I can't wait for that to come out. That looks phenomenal.
yeah, he was working on that, but now he's on to
Possum Girl.
Possum Girl. I don't know where I don't know what the ETA on Phoebe is. He's kind of shifted more towards Possum Girl, and I think he's going to do, because he's doing comic strips for our Patreon of Possum Girl, and he just released, because Possum Girl is largely just one-page comic strips, and he just did my character Hobo Girl versus Possum Girl, and so there's a lot of crossover there, of course, and so I think he's going to do like a collected of all of Possum Girl here once he has enough, and then at some point get back to Phoebe. I don't know what his where his ETA
Oh,
on
okay.
that
I didn't
is.
know I saw Possum Girl art. I didn't know. I thought that was just like something that a side project. I thought he was still working on Phoebe.
Oh no, he has quite a few pages of Possum Girl, little comic strips and stuff, and but he also has a day job, so I think that
Day jobs ruin everything.
they do. I think it's a lot more. It works a lot better where he can do like these one-page comic strips and have this conclusion type deal. It's really hard to settle into 32-page story, because you're not done until you hit page 32, and that can be quite the chore.
Speaking of day jobs, I'm on my 5th week off, and I do not want to go back to work. I don't want to go back to work so bad. I had surgery yesterday for a hernia, so I'm taking another week off. So I'll be off for 6 weeks. So forgive me, everybody, if I'm a little off today. But we got, Tonicmole's a great guy. We got to launch his comic. What does it say? What happened to issue 8 of your comic? Will it be reprinted? Will you open up a store and fund my comic? Okay, cool. We got some questions.
Oh, my comic?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't have issue 8. My comic issue number 1 is this close. The campaign page is being built.
Oh yeah. So issue number 8, yeah, it came out. You can still get it on my website. You can get it on my eBay, and it did very good. It was the crossover with Rags,
right,
from Namco, and also Antarctic.
What's your website? We'll shout it out. Then Marcus or Haldeo will put it in the chat.
It is www.toniccomics.com.
There you go, with an X.
Pretty
right?
Simple, with an X.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it sold really good, and it's still available. So I don't need no reprints yet. It's I think most of the variant covers are still available on one or the other. So no, you're still good to go.
So if I remember correctly, you also have Red Sirens in the works.
Yes.
And that's a project with your wife writing and you're drawing.
Right. That's what we're working on getting out right now, because we launched it with a long production versus where Saving the World's a lot, just boom, rapid fire. And but then, oh boy, it is hard to work on 2 comics at once. But we're about to reach the finish line on that, and that is a fantasy comic that a lot of the same tones and stuff as Saving the World, but fantasy. Me and my wife have similar senses of humor, and but also Red Sirens has like a huge thing of lore and all these different characters and worlds and empires and all these types of things, though with comedy and humor, stuff like that. But and that's what we're working on getting out right now. And that was an example. All the backers, it's a little later than we wanted, and so we sent them all credit to our website so they can go and buy comics. Man, they jumped on that, so it worked out. It actually turned out pretty awesome, because it was kind of fun having everybody rush in and go and buy their stickers and all this stuff. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And so, and so, yeah, that's our main focus right now, getting that wrapped up and shipped out, then launching Saving the World number 11. And right as we're about, obviously, to launch Saving the World number 11, and then right as that campaign is starting to wrap up, we're going to launch On Call Heroes. So everybody who's backed 11 will know, On Call Heroes. And that is written by me with art by Shabby, who did the Vestry series. And it will be Kira and Nora and the gang from Saving the World, just kind of side stories that are more focused on the gang. Because my main series, it's about mainly Kira, Nora, and the On Call Heroes. But hold on, let me find that for you.
While he's looking that up, Zach 10 asked how the surgery go. The surgery went well. I went in for a hernia surgery. It looked like the alien was about to pop out of my stomach. Turned out I had a series of 6 hernias. They had to detach muscles in my abdomen so they could pull everything together and reattach. So I'm wearing like a girdle right now, a compression girdle. Everything's fine. I'm just very uncomfortable. I refuse painkillers because I'm not kind of jerky guy. So standing up and sitting down and coughing are the only things. So I got a lozenge in my throat to suppress coughing, because then you'll see me cry, and nobody wants to see a man cry. And other than that, everything's fine. Everything's fine. I'm taking next week off, and then I'll be back at work on Monday, because my partner is going in for hernia surgery. So it's his turn to take off for a couple of weeks, and then I got to be there. Otherwise, there'll be problems if one of us isn't there. But thank you for asking. And my wife is being really good about it. She's like, if I drop my glasses, she's like picking them up for me, because bending over is not the most pleasant of things. And oh my God, sleeping. You can't get comfortable sleeping. I never try to take yes, just ibuprofen. Yes. I don't drink, I don't smoke, and I won't do drugs, because let's face it, comic book people are compulsive personalities. So I know I won't stop. So I won't start. That way I don't have to stop. He's looking for a physical copy, I guess, of number 8. Is that what you're talking about, Patrick? Or Travis, excuse me. Travis Parrick. I'm sorry I butchered your name, but forgive me.
Yeah, my
wife has been a sweetheart. She's absolutely nice. For a Canadian. Hope she's upstairs listening. So
yeah, it's weird. They should be there, but even on my side, I go, what? They're not showing up. I'll make certain that they show up here.
Okay, Travis. He's Tonic is fixing a bug, it looks like. So you do have copies at your house. Wondering why they're not moving.
Yeah, I know. No kidding. It shows them for sale. And hold on, let me get back. I might be able to fix it here real quick.
Problems arise, but that's what we do. We fix things right away as I try to move closer. So I think the funny thing is, somebody tried to insult Tonicmole by calling him a dime store Jim Morrison.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's kind of a huge compliment, but
right. I thought that, because it's funny, because in your picture on Twitter, I always thought you resembled Jim Morrison in that picture. So when I saw that, I started laughing, and I just love that you embraced it. So in my comic, there's a lot of cityscapes. It's a classic superhero. There's a fight in the city. So I asked my illustrator, Renzo Rodriguez, could he put a couple of classic awnings? I said, could you put Dollar Store Jims? So we put Dollar Store Jims in the background, and now I have to think of a future issue of them actually going into Dollar Store Jims.
Right.
And then I thought, like, it would be fun Easter eggs like there's a billboard with Horace H. Hoover. Like I have the idea that like all my favorite comic books are going to be like cartoons and stuff in my superhero world. So don't be surprised. Like one of the kids has an action figure of Wolf, and another figure has an action figure of Batsy. You know, there's a billboard of Horace H. Hoover. They go into dollar store gyms.
Yeah, I get addicted to that. Like, I just love like little things in the background and stuff. And
Oreno is so he's so detailed, you know, with cityscapes, because he used to be. I think he was not an architect, but he was the job that he just left, or he's attempting to leave, is a industrial artist. So he's drawing schematics and designs and things like that. So that's why his cityscapes look so good. But he's you know, he's a comic book guy. He wants to draw swords and fights and laser beams and things like that. If I remember correctly, Critical Snail is in an issue of Saving the World.
who's that?
Critical Snail.
Oh, yes, that's true. That's number 8. Like there's Critical Snail and wait, and also I think my first issue they're in a comic book store, and in the background there's tons of these covers of indie comics, and I think that was one too. But I felt like it appeared in number 8 also. But I wouldn't quote me on that.
Well, 8 is the crossover issue.
Right. And vaguely every issue you'll find something like that. Number 1 had like tons of stuff, but yeah, that was right. Snail was in the first issue, and then there's all types of little Easter eggs throughout the whole series that I think people get at least 2% of them. And so then sometimes when I'm spending all this time, I'm wondering, is this just overkill at this point?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because Brian Bow puts a lot of references and personal jokes to horror movies. I mean, the way I know comic books, he knows horror movies. And
right.
So we were talking about, he and I were talking about the issue 7, the Gorilla Suit Maniac. And there was like a lot of references to gorillas and horror movies with, and I'm like, he's like, yeah, nobody got them. I'm like, don't feel bad. You know, it's clever. And then the humor he puts in, he said the fake ads of all the old classic. Oh my God, I crack up. That's my favorite part of the comic.
Right. Yeah, and I have sorry, I'm still looking through this thing to see if let's see if I fixed it. No, I still don't. I'll have to do that later. Okay, I'll fix it.
So Travis, he's gonna fix this.
Yeah, I have no idea why they're not showing up. It says that they should be active and everything's good, and they're just not on there. So I'll have to take a little bit more brain power. But and I always loved Ninja Turtles, and they did a lot of crossover with guys that are kind of that were in their own community, like Cerebus and
right. That was
Flaming
an odd
Carrot.
one. What was that, issue 7?
8.
Issue 8.
Yeah, and that was the whole reason I did like number 8 of Saving the World was because of Ninja Turtles number 8. And I had Jim Lawson do a cover that was like a parody of the Ninja Turtles number 8 type bill. So
yeah, you made me get a copy. I got 5th printing of number 1 of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Tonicmole was lividly upset that I had never read an issue of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Sacrilegious.
Yeah, I know. I told you when it came out, I was like, they're making fun of comic books. They're making fun of Daredevil. They're making fun of Frank Miller. So I was like, I vowed then and there never to read a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you made me break a vow.
Right. Well, and what Kevin Eastman did.
I still haven't read it yet, so I bought it. I never said I wasn't going to buy one.
My God, and you haven't read it yet?
It's right here, yeah.
It's not an in-depth read. It's really like about 10 minutes. But, now to be fair, like I'm a little young for Ninja Turtles, the original black and white series. I was like 2 when it came out.
Really?
Yeah, I'm 43, but yeah, I was born in 81 and it came out in 83. Also, I live in Oklahoma. There's no way that comic was anywhere within 200 miles of me.
There was only a few thousand copies, right?
Right. And so there was no way for me to even get it, even if I wasn't a toddler. But for me, yeah, it was the cartoon. It was my first exposure to it, but I collected Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures, which was the Archie comic based on the cartoon. And it was weird because I loved that comic, and it had so much. It got about issues 10 or so. It goes off rails, like it gets wild as hell, and it completely separates from the cartoon. Like the cartoon, it starts its first few issues parallel to the cartoon, and then just what I didn't realize until I was older was Mirage Studios and the guys making the black and white comic were just doing the adventures. Like it wasn't 2 different groups. They just used Archie as the distributor. And it was the same guys though. So the comic actually had largely the same style after the first few issues. And and Jim Lawson, he drew everything Ninja Turtles. So of course he takes over Adventures as well. And so that was the first interaction I had with him. So it was pretty fluid when I finally went back and read the black and white comics, which, okay, I say that. I had a trade when I was a little kid, when I was 7 or 8. That was the first like 3 or 4 issues of TMNT. So that was my first comic, really was that. Yeah, it was first publishing. That's exactly what I got first. And that was, yeah, the first few issues. But I think they were a colored trade that came out in 87 or 88. But yeah, then my friend from
Yeah, I'm saving my
Oh, yeah.
voice. I'm sorry.
No, that is fine. I can ramble for a long time.
Marcus, he went to a School of Visual Arts. His friend Chris Allen drew Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Archie Comics after Jim Lawson.
Sweet.
So we got 2 minutes to launch, everybody.
2 minutes to launch. I better get over
credit
there.
cards ready.
Get your credit cards ready. I need money.
Do not want Tonicmole wandering out of his house looking for work. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, it's either this or I'm ushering in the apocalypse, so I can do either. Let's see.
Speaking of ushering in the apocalypse, my thing this week has been, I don't know if people are tired of hearing about this, but I bought this coin collection of the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. We got death. Everybody knows death. We got famine. We got war. And then what should be the next one?
Wait, which ones did you do? Do them again.
I did war.
Yeah.
Famine.
Okay.
Death.
Yeah.
What's the next one?
Pestilence?
Right. Everybody says pest, but it's Conquest.
What?
Conquest. So I called up the company. I was like, why'd you send me Conquest? And they said, check out your Bible. So I opened up the Bible, and yes, it's Conquest. I opened up my wife's Bible and then my grandfather's Bible. I went back to like all the, it's Conquest. I think we've been Mandela affected to think that it was pest, but according to the Bible, it's Conquest.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And my Bibles go back to the 70s from my grandfather.
You're right.
So it's not even that you could say like the printed comics. So here we go. It's 2:00.
Okay. Lunchtime.
Lunchtime. I'm trying to find it out. Did anybody get a notification?
Oh,
I just got my notification.
Yeah.
Back this project. I'm back and live on. I don't want no digital deluxe. I want an actual comic book because I'm that kind of a person.
Yeah, paper, baby.
Yeah, I understand. How does digital sell for you?
I mean, pretty good, really. I think it's still physical. Probably it still outsells digital, I believe, at this point. But they still sell good enough. The one thing that was surprised me was digital deluxe. You know, it comes with all the variant covers as like high res images and stuff, and with and some other various things. I never even thought about that, but someone asked me for it, and I was like, okay. It sold like crazy. Like people in other countries and stuff that just can't have the
I'm back
physical.
to number 3. Damn it! I tried to get number 1 again.
Oh, so close.
So close. I'm backer number 3. Damn it. We got 4 backers already, according to mine.
Heck yeah, we passed $100.
Nice. Well, I it's no joke, and I mean I pestered Tonicmole for some art, and
Mhm.
you sent me art. You sent me a great page too. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the
I,
page from Saving the World #1, which is
right.
the only issue that has physical art, because after that, I went digital, and I was doing sketch covers, for #10, and I realized I got to start getting my pen and pencils out and drawing physical, which I haven't done since, drawing #1 really. Physical is just so much, or digital so much easier and faster, but you start to lose your ability to use a pen and pencil and stuff. It's just a little bit different. And I was like, yeah, I better start sitting down with some actual paper.
Yeah, it's funny. In the I guess 2 years that I've been. Wow, has it been 2 years that I've been talking with people?
I
They all
bet
say
so.
the same thing, that they, out of necessity, they go to digital art because, like you said, it's easier to do corrections and it's easier. But they need to go back to pen and paper because it seems to sharpen their skills.
Yeah.
And then they have some physical product that they can actually sell. I mean, they're selling original art is lucrative work, if you know.
Yeah, and for like, especially for people who work, uh, who aren't self-published, they're like
Well,
doing contract work or whatever. They need every dime they can get. So, they get the commission and get paid for that, but then they sell the physical art, and then they hit the Comic-Con circuit where they're selling physical and all this. So, yeah, there's a lot of that. Where self-publishing, you're trying to get the comics done as fast as possible. Well, and like for me, there's not a lot of money in physical art. So, it's not really worth the trouble. But
it's funny you heard that. A notification popped up that your boy Zach made a new video, and I tried to dismiss it. And I hit play.
yeah, boy.
That's funny. I message him every couple of months. You want to come on my channel? And to his credit, he always responds and says, "No, thank you." He doesn't just ghost me. He doesn't yell at me. He just says politely, "No, thank you."
That's nice.
People ask me, "What's your secret? How do you get these people to come on your channel?" I'm just a pest. It's how I got all my girlfriends.
Right.
Just keep asking them out. Just keep asking them out until they're just too tired to say no, and they figure we'll have a lousy date. We'll go out. I'll bore this guy off. It doesn't work for me. I'm like glue.
Yeah. And there is a lot of, oh, we're almost funded. We're at $417.
Oh, nice.
And so
wow.
The just asking, like, the things I've done, I was wildly unsuccessful until I was about 39, which was 2020. And so also this series is like my big success, and I don't even make that much money, but but I had crazy amount of, from my little town in nowhere, like almost type things. I'd I'd sent a game idea to Sega, and they were sending it around to the studios and stuff. Nothing ever happened of it, but it was just because I made a little portfolio thing and mailed it. And I talked to HR Giger's manager. The HR Giger designed the alien and stuff. I talked to his manager for like an hour on the phone. I just found his phone number. Well, nobody calls it because it's just some art studio guy, but I did. And I got to talk, and he was telling, like, I got to hear like insider info. Like, he was like, well, Ridley Scott, he's doing that Robin Hood movie. But if that don't work out, he's going to try to make a prequel to Alien and all this. So I knew about Prometheus long before anybody else. And so that was all cool.
It's funny that you say that because I've been looking up people, and I just called up like a Cat. I don't know if you know Cat Ironwood. She was the editor for Eclipse Comics, which I consider.
Oh, yeah.
I just looked her up, got her phone number, called her, and within an hour we were doing a live interview.
Right.
I got Dave Sim from Cerberus.
Yeah.
Just he's not a social media guy, so I called him up on a landline.
Yeah.
And I left a message, and 2 days later I get a call. Hello, this is Dave Sim. We went back and forth for like 2 weeks just talking and having conversations, but he didn't want to come on my channel.
Yeah.
But if you go to Dave Sim Speaks in December, it's all about when he came to my local comic store and he put up pictures. You could see like little kid me.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he asked me to. I'm talking with the guy that owned that comic book store because he wants to get the names of all the people that were there because it was his first in-store appearance. And he gave out like issue number 4 of Cerberus to like 12-year-old me.
Right.
Believe it or not, I was young once. And
right. The beard was shorter.
Yes, the beard was shorter. And it's funny because he then mailed me a copy of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 8 with the sketch cover of Cerberus, and thanks to he was a complete gentleman, but he just doesn't. He's, I guess, media shy or whatever. But
right,
he's calling people cold. That's how I got Jim Shooter. Just got his phone number and called him.
Yeah. I need Dave Sim. He's one that I've been wanting to talk to. I've only talked to like his social media reps. He kind of has people that handle that type of stuff, and because I've been wanting to have Cerberus appear in Saving the World, which I can because Cerberus is not copyright protected. He just says, and his people said that. I asked them, and they go, "Well, anybody can use it, so go ahead." I was like, "Yeah, but."
And it's still, I swear, if you just Google Dave Sim, you're going to get a brown page. It looks like it was made in 1988, and his contact information. It has his phone number, and you just call it. He screens it. You're going to get an answering machine. I just was like, all right, I'll never hear from him. But that, just persistence.
Right.
And called me back, and he was pleasant as can be.
Yeah, Cerberus is one of the few comics I collect now because I used to collect Batman, stuff like that, and I just got out of it and started focusing only on Ninja Turtles and Cerberus, and I actually was lucky to have some of the earlier issues before I was collecting. Like I'm just buying comics, and I got some of the early stuff, and but I have a pretty. So reading through those, it's a totally different experience than Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles its tone varies, but it's because different creative thing. They were just very experimental, like all over the place, just whatever random idea they had. Whereas Cerberus, it's one guy over decades and
aging.
Right. Yeah, and it is wild. And like, there's no writer I have more respect for, even though some people go, oh, well, the story starts to not make sense to me or something like that. I go, yeah, but it's he never second guessed himself, right? He was just doing that thing he wanted to do at the time. And he was very
compromised. He did
Right,
what
right.
yeah.
And he was very self-aware at the same time. You know, some people, oh, I disagree with him. Well, he disagrees with himself in his own comic. He never spouted it as if it was gospel. It was always he was his own worst critic within his own comic.
Yes.
And
And I'm a big proponent of getting the original copies. Like, and
yeah,
I also don't like CGCing.
yeah,
If you, and Cerebus to me is one of the best examples. If you get Cerebus and you do not read the letters pages, you're missing half the entertainment.
yeah,
It's a famous letters page. You're going to see him. It starts out with him and his girlfriend working in the comic.
right.
You go through a marriage, you go through a separation, you go through a divorce, you go through a bitter phase of anger and resentment. Then you go through like a crazy, like insanity phase of
Yeah,
Dave's, and then you come back to like more rational, like
yeah,
you know, and he makes no bones about all of these different periods of his life that you experience
yeah,
over, I'm trying to think, 20, 25 years of comic.
yeah, something like that. And yeah, and that's yeah, he is like he's very important to the story. If you just read the comic, yeah, you're not getting it. You have to
Right.
read.
And if you get those church and state telephone books, I don't know, do they reprint the letters pages or is it just the comics?
I don't know. I have the deluxe edition deal, which I do highly recommend because um, print
Well,
presses in the 70s and 80s sucked, and
right.
so now
And
you get
low
this.
print runs. A lot of those are the first 10 issues are unaffordable.
Right, right. And I bought this giant omnibus thing, and yeah, the print is amazing. But I doubt they do. I bet it's just comic, not the um, which I have. Mine really picks up at 6 or 7.
I
Oh,
figured I'll bring up your campaign.
yeah,
Let's talk about this a little bit. The reason why we're here. So here we go. We got This is Saving the World. We got 18 backers, 29 days to go. Should I play this? Is this safe for me to play?
yeah, and you're in it.
Saving the World is a comic about a misfit crew of amateur
That's not me.
superheroes fighting to save America's heartland from rampaging mutants, ghastly monsters, and even the occasional insect-themed evildoer. Every issue is 32 pages full of fun, non-stop action, and star-studded heroics. But you don't have to take my word for it.
This is a great comic. It's a lot of fun. It's everything that comics are supposed to be. Fun, excitement, boobs. What else do you want? Let's save the world. Let's save Tonicmole. Let's save ourselves. We don't want him to go outside.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah, and
So that's
when
the famous Honey. I've never seen her before.
yeah, she does. She's barely on social media or anything. And so I talked her into doing a video. She's going to start doing like updates and stuff like that. Because she's always like, you should talk about. I'm like, I'm not very good at all that stuff. And so maybe you should.
So here we have Heartland of America is under attack. It's up to a misfit crew of amateur superheroes to save it from imminent destruction. That's something that I do like about the comic. It's almost like it reminds me of that movie Slackers that came out.
Yeah.
Why can't I think of the director? But so they're like slackers, but at the same time, the threat is building, and I don't know where it's going, and I love it.
Yeah.
The tension rises with every issue, and at the same time, it's a bunch of goofballs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and it's a tough balance because I do see some things that, do the goofball thing, but maybe they lean into it too hard. And so keeping the balance to where, yeah, these are kind of normal people living a goofy life in the Southwest and Midwest. But at the same time, keeping that to where the world around them is very serious, though. Like it's, there's escalation and all these types of things. And so with this campaign, you can of course get the current issue. There's variant covers. You can get the catch-up bundles, both digital and physical, if you haven't caught up, haven't been up to date. And also we have stickers and posters, and special things is the we have signed prints by Illustrator Monk. We got signed number 9s by Matthew Weldon, who
Excellent
did
artist. Yeah.
Punchline, and he signed them. I sent him so many copies for him to have for comic conventions, whatever, and then he signed 10 of them, but he also drew a little Kira on them. So they're not just a sign, there's a Kira drawing as well. And we just got 10 of those. So, first come, first serve situation. Let's see how many. Oh, those are in. I guess I have to look.
Yeah, I had Bill Williams who writes Punchline.
Yeah.
On my channel, and he sent me a PDF of the comic, and it's the only PDF of a comic I read because the art looks so good. So now I'm up to issue I think 12 of the physical comics. It's so good, and Bill Williams is going to be the letterer on my comic.
Let's see.
Hope you feel better, Brian. Hope you feel better. We were just talking about you earlier. Yeah, Punchline is a fun comic.
It's like pro level stuff, and they their characters appear in number 8 as well, and so
let's refresh this. See what we got. 20 backers, nice.
We're still at 20, and
nice.
We've been funded.
You hit your goal. You hit your goal in 10 minutes. It looks like.
Yeah.
We'll bring this back up in a minute. For those of you who just joined us, joined a successful campaign. Now, you could go to Tonic Comics and get all the back issues. And he just found out that there was a bug. Well, he'll fix it, and you'll be able to get issue number 8.
Yeah.
So go to Tonic Comics and get all the back issues. Are you going to collect them all into like a big phone book service type thing at one point?
Yeah, eventually. I haven't figured out. I think it was going to be after number 12. So
makes sense.
I kind of think of a full volume as being 1 year of mainstream. So after number 12. So we still have a little bit, and that will be a full-sized. My trades have been the little 5x5 by 8x5, 8.5. I mean, little manga sized, and but the omnibus will be full-sized, standard comic, but thick as hell. Because there'll be 12 issues, most of which are 32 pages, but there's a few over that. So let's see what that is. Oh, come on, Dusty. I can't even use a calculator.
I know.
Yeah, there'll be about 400 pages. So that'll be a lot.
Aldia, could you throw in or Marcus, could you put in Brian Bow's campaign? Because Wolf and Batsy is active right now too. He was in the chat. And I want all of my friends to have successful comic book campaigns. Brian put a goal of 3,000. He already blew that away. I want Brian to get to 10 grand. Why? Because Wolf and Batsy should be read by everybody. Saving the World should be read by everybody. I am of the opinion that a rising tide floats all boats. And not to get maudlin or dramatic over here, but I think in the indie sphere, if the spotlight shines on one of us, like the sunlight shines on the earth and reflects on the moon. We all see the moon. You know what I mean? Like it helps all of us. Oh, Brian says we're too kind. Well, I want all of the indies to do well. David Brink over here from Perfect 10, he helped me out. Nick Axe he's doing the artwork for Crom the Destroyer for RJ of the Fourth Age. when I started doing this, I just had a head full of dreams. I wanted to make a comic, and then everybody came and helped me out. How could I not help out everybody else? What goes around comes around. I do believe, you get what you get what you put out there. Like the Beatles said, the love you make is equal to the love you take. I guess the pain meds are. Well, I'm not on pain meds, but that was going to be my excuse. Yes.
Hey, just go with it. Oh man, pain meds make me crazy.
Well, ibuprofen.
Yeah. Okay, I did.
This is for Wolf and Batsy 10, 11, 12, and you could get the back issues. And $40, you could get 12 comics from Brian Bow, and they're a lot of fun. And wait till you see issue 7, the Gorilla Suit Maniac. Oh my God, he gets shy or bashful when I say that first page reminds me of like an opening page of a Will Eisner's The Spirit.
Okay, I posted on eBay. We do have number 8s for sale.
Okay.
And that's functioning. I posted the link in our
put a link. Oh, you already anticipated me. You anticipated me.
Yeah, because I don't know how to do it in the real chat.
Well, you have to be a moderator.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so there you go.
There we go. So,
so I'll bring this up. So you can get issue number 8 until Tonicmole figures out what's going on.
What's going on with my website. And so yeah, I 100% agree. So a while back, everybody was talking about Tonicmole, the Sigma, the lone wolf. And the reality, I'm the least lone wolf person on the planet.
You're not a loner, Dottie, a rebel?
Not in comics at all, because like Terry Moore and Jimmy Palmiotti and Doug Garrett and Peter Palmiotti, tons of people helped me like when I launched my series. And like the first issue has all of the fellow crowdfunders and stuff in the background hidden, and there's tons of these. Then my number 8 was the biggest crossover in indie comics history, so I had everybody in there. And so yeah, I have a lot of I like outreach, because I believe the exact same thing, that when comics thrive, it's because of a bunch of high quality creators unified. And that's exactly what Ninja Turtles was with it was Ninja Turtles, Cerebus, Flaming Carrot, and there was a few others that all kind of joined together in this giant, what they called the black and white boom.
Right.
And black and white comics were outselling DC and Marvel throughout the 80s. And I think a lot of that had to do with, you pick up a Cerebus, and in the back it has a little short of Flaming Carrot, and then Cerebus is in Ninja Turtles, and Ninja Turtles is in, and even into Image, Ninja Turtles and Cerebus was appearing everywhere. So Cerebus was in Spawn, and Ninja Turtles crossed over with Savage Dragon.
That was a bizarre crossover, huh?
Right. And Savage Dragon and Ninja Turtles crossed over a lot. And so yeah, I kind of see that as, and I don't think there needs to be, everybody wants to name something, kind of like, what was it? There was everybody was wanting to call things Iron Age or something like that, like name this age or whatever. And but you have to have the community first, you have to have the creators first. You can't just force things to happen. And so,
right,
that hustle has to come first before you get to.
I do like that everybody's helping each other. I don't like the drama. I'd rather have streams of people talking about what they like and pushing. And if you don't like something, it's easy to ignore it. And there's a couple of comics that I don't like, and I just don't bring them up because somebody likes them, and it makes me look jealous or petty. So I don't bring them up.
Yeah, and
on my channel, I tend to showcase comics that I do like because I like them, and I want to share stuff that I like. I don't want to hear you want a piece of this disgusting dinner. You know what I mean? And I don't want to do that with you. But if I do showcase a comic that I don't like, it's to make a point. And so far it's only been a Marvel or a DC because punching upwards kind of thing. But
Right.
us small press guys, let's help each other out. I'm not going to mention the name, but a guy asked me for help with the script, and I gave him ideas. Next thing you know, he's like all excited again. It was fun, Brian Bell gave me some good advice that really changed me for the better, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that make cool shit and let historians figure it out later. That's exactly right. Because it kind of feels desperate when people are trying to force it, and it's like
that's just never going to happen.
Right. I just have to pay my bills. I really do not care if there's a movement around me or something. I just gotta. And it's kind of funny thing where art, when I was younger, I felt that art and money were bad, that the combination, they polluted each other, right? But then I saw movements around art, and I was like, wow, that's worse than money. Like, when I just want to make money off of my comic, and I have what do they call that, ethics and stuff, like artistic ethics, quite a bit. But still, in the end, money, I'm not making it. It's not, I'm not. It's not a world revolution or some crap. And so now I almost see that there's some sort of purity in, I just need to pay my bills. Like, paying your bills is very pure versus I'm trying to manipulate society. It's like, oh no, we don't need any of that. We aren't great at deciding what.
One thing that I had to laugh at is your boy Zach pointed this out, and I guess I never paid attention. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Diversity Comics, now called Comics Matter, your boy Zach, Richard C. Meyer. He was saying that a lot of these people who are crowdfunding comics, they would say, don't worry, I'm not making a dime off this comic. I'm doing this. Why are you why?
Right. I'm bad at business. It's cool. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly. You just jumped to, yeah. Guys, I'm still broke and eating cat food. Nobody likes a loser. Everybody likes a winner.
And they're investing in you. And if you say, I'm actually losing money, then you have to go, wait, so am I going to get my comic or maybe not? Right? No, you need to be,
When I back a Graham Nolan comic, and then I see this guy with a snifter of cognac in a cigar in his backyard in those shorts, grilling a steak, I'm like, this guy's going to give me a good comic.
I can trust him.
Yeah, I could trust this guy. This guy seems like he's got his shit together. Right. And then I see, I don't even know. I'm just gonna make up a name. Joe McGillicuddy over here on Kickstarter, and you see his house and his freaking garbage on the floor. He's got a box spring mattress. Like, don't worry, guys, I'm not making any money.
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah, I don't know. Would you hire an electrician who? Let me wire your house, and then you see me. I show up. I got holes in my pants, and my car's broken down, and it's fire explosion, and my tools are all rusty. No,
and you got a sleeping bag.
Afford good tools,
Yeah, I think that I think a new era is kind of coming about because bubbles are dangerous, and there was the .com bubble. There was certainly a crowdfunding bubble, and it can be fun during it, but we're not going to have a lot of sustainability there. And even if you look at like Image Comics, I will tell you, I grew up in that boom. So I was 12 or 13 when Image took off. It was like the funnest time in comics ever. Like, you had these million copy selling comics. Everybody was talking about Spawn or Gen 13 and on the latest issue and getting all the covers. And you could buy. I bought Witchblade #1 and like off the shelf, and then within a week it was worth $50. And so that was a really fun time. However, you fast forward, by 96, it had evaporated to nothing. Like, it was just disappeared. And so, sometimes the bubble, it can be fun for 2 or 3 years, but you don't, having these long lasting things is a little bit different. And I don't even know really what happened to Image. Yeah, the market imploded, but to the degree that Image imploded to where very few of those IPs even exist.
Right.
And most of them were sold off to DC, which was, that's sacrilegious. My God.
To the point when they did that Marvel thing, I didn't realize it, but Marvel was saving Image just as much as Image was saving Marvel.
Right.
I thought they were doing it because they're like, we're going to show these old school guys how to do it,
Right.
But no, they needed each other to help each other out.
Well, yeah, and that
campaign page again. Let's check this out.
Yeah, let's see where we're at.
All right. So, wow, you blew past your goal. Thanks. I'd like.
Yeah,
I'll take a check. Take me out for a steak dinner.
That's right.
No, my payment is getting a good comic and talking to some cool guys, and maybe get some reflected glow off the earth of Tonicmole's shine right here. Sign up for my heroic tales. It's happening, guys. Things are moving. It's happening sooner rather than later. I got to stop memorizing my pitch now. It's that close.
Yeah. The pitch is the hardest part.
I know. Oh, here we go. Just back to physical copies 1 to 11.
Nice.
Thank you, Travis. You're gonna like it. It's a good, fun comic. And what I like about it is I have no idea where it's going. And that's a good thing, because I always try to play a game where I try to beat the writer. As I'm watching the movie, I try to figure out where it's going, and if I could predict the ending, then who am I? I'm just an asshole in the seat. You know what I mean?
Number 10 gave you lots of hints. I really thought, I was like, okay, John, by number 10, he's gonna start to maybe put things together. And it is, I don't want to oversell it. I feel like my conclusion to this first arc, which will be roughly issue 1 through 20, will be the first full arc of explaining Lily and Wepawet and all those things. I think it's one hell of a zinger. So
I love Lily and Wepawet. They are. If I could, Adam Miller was on my channel the other day, and he's doing Iron Age icons, and he's submitting. I think you should submit Lily and Wepawet for.
Yeah,
you should. I think.
I
wouldn't even, because I submitted the Patriarch, and I would not be upset if Lily and Wepawet beat me out for a card.
Now, who's the guy who's the art on your comic?
Renzo Rodriguez.
I think he did a.
Renzo is outstanding. Renzo right now is doing 6 art cards. Here's a little scoop for my comic. For stretch goals, we're gonna do 6 cards. So he's now doing the art for that.
I'll have to look it up. This guy did.
I thought I put this in the chat, but apparently I didn't. If anybody wants to pop in and talk with me in Tonicmole, I realize I said that I put this in the chat, but forgive me, guys. It's the day after surgery, and I'm not 100%. even if I'm normal, I'm not 100%. So if anybody wants to pop in and talk with Tonicmole and myself, we got 34 people watching. Pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, they had to take you apart and put you back together.
Yeah. God, my poor wife was freaking out.
Well, that's what, like, me and my wife are always going to have a second kid, but it's insane when you think about it, right? Like, where you're like, because it's a big deal. Like, anything in a hospital is a big deal. birthing children is insane. And we just, I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't, you know, you feel like it's rolling the insane dice. Like the
How
most,
old is your kid?
she's 24.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a full on adult, off doing
And
her
she's
thing
an
and all
artist
that.
too, right?
Yeah, yep, yeah. She actually drew something for Lily and Lepawet,
Oh, cool.
the little
Now,
trade.
is she into comics also?
No, not really at all. No, she had to go with me to, um, like the movies because I was watching all the superhero movies, and she doesn't like superheroes, none of that business at all. She's more into the artsy art, uh, still pop art. So like it's in the realm of like underground comics and stuff. And that would she yeah, if she reads a comic, it's gonna be like she ran off with my old R. Crumb comics and stuff. Uh, but yeah, she didn't grow up in an era that like her generation has no interest in like
Right.
Batman
Does
and
she read
stuff.
manga?
No, she don't that either. No, she was she's more just the R. Crumb and the more super artistic side type stuff. And of course, they have their own that generation. They have their own whole their own icons and all that type stuff that I don't even know who they are or what they
Yep.
do.
My buddy Jimmy's daughter, now a tattoo artist, and she doesn't
Mhm.
read comics. She doesn't read manga, but she's into. Sounds like your daughter. But she's 24 too. I wonder what's going on here. You know, same.
Well, if you look at comic book sales, it will display exactly what's going on. That anybody under the age of 35 has almost zero interest in comic books, and if they do, maybe if it's from Japan, but even then,
Right.
you know.
And you know what's funny when you see like your shirt right now. You got an old school Superman shirt on. Like all the product, all the swag. It has it's 20 years old. The image, the artwork. Nobody wants Marvel and DC swag from now.
Right.
Is anybody wearing Kamala Khan gear? You know, like
Yeah, well, and that's been an interesting thing. It's happening in video games too. So what happened was because like me, I look at the sales and go, what's the reality? Because I know people are triggered or whatever, but if it sells, it sells, whatever. But if you look at no, and so you have number ones of anything Marvel DC are going to sell at least remotely okay. But whether it was Kamala Khan or any of that type stuff, interest was minimal, but push was huge. And video gaming was similar, where games weren't selling, but they would get sequels. It kept pushing, and even as fans said, we don't want that. That kept push, and come find out what was happening was both video game industry and the comic book industry were just being funded off of grants and stuff. Their customer was not us, or hasn't been us, and isn't us to this day. It's a lot of like Saudi Arabia and all that give them billions, and that's what they live off of. The game doesn't have to sell. They get money from governments and stuff, foreign governments, domestic governments, whatever, and they're just living off of that. So it tainted all those industries, and you see a huge pushback now, because what those governments started to pull funding, and so a lot of those companies just started to implode. And so you see a lot of pushback on that, and isn't totally new. Mainstream comics has this thing to where often throughout their history they start getting money from other places or something like that. Just like movies, when they started making all their money off of action figures, and we get something like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, where they don't care about the movie. It's, look at all these cars you can buy at the toy store, And so these kind of insidious corruption type things happen.
Well, what was it? That was the whole thing of Spaceballs, the merchandising.
Right, exactly. And Star Wars, yeah, Star Wars 100% started it, but not on purpose. It was just,
I think Star Wars, it was just fan demand. We demanded it.
Right. And George Lucas said, yeah, that sounds cool. And they did it purely because, man, that would be cool, right? It was the cool thing to do. And everybody agreed that having a figure of everybody, like, it don't matter, any character, go for it. And people just bought it up, and it was wild. And then, that fueled the action figure craze, which, kind of like where people go, what happened to comics? Well, the same thing that happened to action figures. Action figures are nowhere where they were in the 80s and 90s. I mean, you had, movies were made to sell action figures, not the other way around.
Right.
Now, action figures are trying to promote so you'll go to the theater, where before the theater was just a commercial for your.
Just like comics, action figures are 40-year-old men buying them.
Yeah. There was a hyper consumerism of pop culture throughout the 80s and 90s, and that died. And now people are into like cell phones, like buying little devices. And so now the one funny thing where they say, well, everybody's aging out, like, that generation. It's like, we're only 40 years old and we have money. And they're like, well, anyways, they're practically dead. It's like, we have like
anybody that have small children. What do your children play with? What do little kids play with? I know Brian's daughter, Brian Bau's daughter. She reads Dogman and she'll sit there and she'll draw, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But does any kids read comics? Do any kids play with action figures? I don't even know. I have billions of nieces and nephews, and I just realized now, not only do I never see comics at their house, but I never see like action figures. Like I don't even know. Like the toys seem to be like electronics.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like an old man, you kids with your video games, but I'm not a video game guy.
Yeah, they do seem to have gone a bit when it comes to real young kids, much more digital with video games and things on iPads and stuff like that. But there is certainly a cultural shift, at least among teens and up, towards like the value of DVDs and stuff are skyrocketing. That happened a little bit with VHS, but now it's DVDs and Blu-rays. Everybody's trying to basically run away from the digital world, which is ironic because they, in 2020, the big push was, okay, you stream movies, you read digital comics. What if you live your entire life in a metaverse? And that broke people. They were like, you mean Second Life? That is where creepy people go. It didn't happen. It didn't work.
I like my physical stuff. I like my physical comics. I started buying vinyl again because, after what happened to that guy, I can't think of the quartering, Magic the Gathering, people took away his magic cards.
Right.
Like his politics. Did they give him back the money that he spent?
Right.
Oh, we got a guest. We got Pixel Trader. How you doing?
Hey, man.
I couldn't pass up a chance to pop in and talk to Tonic.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So the interesting thing you guys were bringing up about toys and stuff is so my oldest is going to turn 22 this year, and it's really interesting looking at the difference between then and now. I have two little ones. One of them is 3 years old, and the other one is coming up on 8 months. And just the difference in their world, like what they deal with, what they play with, and everything has been really interesting. Like my oldest, I brought him up playing video games like Nintendo and doing all that kind of stuff, and it's still a lot of the stuff that I played with back when I was younger. But these little guys, like it's a whole different world, a full digital environment and stuff. And so, you know, trying to put an NES controller into their hands, I just know it's not going to work. Like my 3-year-old, he knows how to run a tablet like nothing. I mean, it's like second nature to him. But I just, it's really strange. So I've got action figures. I've got some stuff. There's some Dollar Tree toys that came out a while back. Final Faction, I think is what they're called. They're like $1.25 now. I love those things, and they're practically disposable action figures, but they remind me so much of like GI Joes and stuff. So I bought a bunch of those so him and I can play with once he gets a little bit older. And I'm going to try to kind of institute some of that. And I've also, like as far as comics and stuff goes, because I'm a collector and I'm also a creator now. I'm trying to kind of guide that creative aspect and get them into reading and stuff. And so I'm trying to blank on his name. Gary Shipman does a book called Titan, Mouse of Might. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book. And so I've purchased the first one. I'm actually going to get the other two. He's got a campaign going right now, I believe. But it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. The guy doesn't get near enough credit. And it's just this really, really cool action kind of, it almost looks like Batman as a mouse kind of thing, but it's awesome. And my son loved it. And so I'm going to try to push a few more of those. It gets a little scary in some places, so he wasn't quite liking it, but overall it's
a private chat and I'll throw it up.
Okay. Yeah. I'll find it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to help everybody.
Yeah. My daughter, she's 24. So she, PlayStation 2 was like her big deal. And that's what she wanted for Christmas this year was a PlayStation 2. They have, her and her boyfriend, they have a PlayStation 5 and all this type stuff. But she's like, I'm not really into any of it. I just want to play I want to play Gun and all these games from the early 2000s and stuff. So like, yeah, even Gen Z is like, I'm just retreating into my nostalgia of early 2000s. And so, yeah, she has her little PlayStation 2 collection and stuff like that. And so, yeah, she was, before the kind of iPad revolution to where kids were, she didn't have a cell phone until she was, late teens or something like that. And there was no tablets or nothing like that. So yeah, hers is PlayStation 2. But I can imagine, yeah, kids being born today, it's going to be so much on tablets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or at least for, people always see the future is a straight trajectory of the present, and that's never happened ever, which is why like my favorite genre is the straight trajectory from a specific decade. So Fallout is the future of 1950 if nothing changed. Like everything, technology advanced, but society was frozen. And in many ways, cyberpunk is both what would have happened if the 80s continued indefinitely, and modern day. Like it's that type of, and they're kind of the two different. If you kind of shook it down to political, Fallout is like conservatism run wild, and cyberpunk is liberalism run wild. Like, what if neither got in each other's way and just trajectory? So you have Cyberpunk 2077, everybody's hyper modified crime and all this type stuff, versus the Fallout future of kind of this authoritarian type military state type deal. And so, but that's not actually how anything ever works. There's always hiccups that alter the direction. And so
every attempt to predict the future in literature and pop culture fails. Like even Star Trek.
Right.
It's the 24th century, and the girls are wearing mini skirts on the bridge, which I wish would come true.
Now
I'm still waiting for my flying cars.
Yeah, flying cars. Yeah,
I always
no social media. You know what I mean. I'd
Yeah.
like to think by the 24th century we got over it, so maybe it
Right.
happened. We got better.
I like that Star Trek did predict, like they go with the little thing. Okay, freaking flip phone,
Right.
right? In this, long before that was a thing, but they got that one right. And but my favorite are the ones where we have passed that time, and like he's saying, flying cars with Back to the Future, which was comedically wrong, like it didn't get nothing right, and like dehydrated foods and stuff. But when you look at future predictions, if you apply practicality, then you go, oh, okay, I see where that went wrong. Like, why would you do that? That don't make no sense. And but I see a lot of that now where people go, well, the future is. It's like, you're not. No, because you're biased because you're doomsday or whatever. But but a lot with the digital future, everything's gonna be no. We're gonna see a huge step back to where, and currently everybody's rushing to buy DVDs and Blu-rays because you had a bunch of these big things where people bought all this content and then they shut down the service and they
Right.
lost access to it.
Mhm.
And
I'm a big board gamer, and then for a while everybody was pushing board game simulators on like, so
Mhm.
me and Tonic could play in different states. And a lot of these apps that I bought, I can't use them anymore.
right.
They're already 5 years. I mean, granted, they were a couple of bucks, but still, I can't use them. But my board games behind me,
Mhm.
maybe I paid $30-$40, but they're still here. I can still touch them. I
Right.
can still play them. I can still play, for the rest of
Yeah.
my vinyl collection over there. I could, some
Yeah.
of these records, I tell the story that I went to an old girlfriend's house to do electrical work, and she was just like, I was like, I'm not going to take any money. And she was like, yeah, you want records? Now, keep in mind, I dated this girl in the 80s. She gave me a milk crate full of records, and I'm like, these are my records. I did electrical work in your house to get my records back that you stole from me. That we broke up, walked away, and wonder what happened. But I still have them. 40-year-old records. I can still play them. I cleaned
That's
them off.
amazing.
Well,
Some
see,
of
I got into like buying the movies on Vudu because it was convenient. I didn't have to go to Walmart or Best Buy or something to go buy a disc. I could just buy it at home and watch it instantly. Then I realized that I started to not give a crap about movies because all I had to do is go click and watch the movie. And I was a huge movie, like I watched everything that came out, and have this massive DVD and Blu-ray collection. And it actually ruined my love of movies because it was too convenient. It wasn't fun at all. And so, like this year, I started going, I'm not buying anything digital. I'm shutting down all my streaming services because one thing, there's free ones. I only watch Beverly Hillbillies mainly, so I watch that for free. And but you could like getting my clothes on, getting in my car, driving to Walmart and looking at all of the DVDs and stuff. That's fun. That's why I liked it. It was getting out and looking at things and like, oh,
yeah.
that's cool.
Sometimes you got to make an effort.
Exactly. We've extracted effort from everything and come find out nothing's fun anymore because it's too effortless, too convenient.
That's something that the youngins got to learn. Like
Yeah.
I have young friends that are talking about they want basic income. I'm like, that'll destroy society.
Right.
You
Right.
got to get up and do something. And to answer Travis's question, yes, I have a lot of Lou Reed. I'm a big Lou Reed fan. I'm a punk rocker from New York, and like it or not, Lou Reed is the godfather. Him and Iggy Pop got together, and somewhere Joey Ramone was involved. I don't know how, but it's none of my business. Whatever they want to do behind closed doors, and punk rock was created. I'm a big Lou Reed fan. I interrupted Lou Reed having dinner once, and I was like, I don't care how intrusive this is. I'm going to say hello to, and he looked at me like, will you please leave me alone, with terror in his eyes? And I just said hello. And then Gigi Allen interrupted me in a bar once, and I was like, please leave me alone. Actually, I said nothing. I was like a deer in a headlight. Anything I say, anything I do is going to end badly. So I'm just going to stand here until he leaves, which something else distracted him and he walked away. Good stuff. Magic and Lost, my favorite album of his. What song? Regrets, I think, is that the name of the song? That my sister passed away 2 months ago, and that song just popped into my head, and I've been listening to that song over and over again. So there you go. So Lou Reed, yes, I love Lou Reed. Love the Velvet Underground. See, Saving the World is the Velvet Underground of comics.
Yeah.
It doesn't sell a lot, but everybody who buys it loves it, and then they're going to go off and make their own comics and be inspired. Happened to me.
Right.
There you go. Tonicmole is the Lou Reed of the comic scene.
Hey, I'll take that. I'm a pretty big Lou Reed fan, and David Bowie and Iggy Pop. And we were all on the Twitterverse talking about the new Crow movie.
Don't look right.
Oh yeah, it don't look good for multiple reasons, and it's easily one of the most influential comics I ever read was The Crow. And I got to go, and I had the giant trade is what I read, and I read it almost until the cover fell off. Like, that cover is just mangled from reading over and over and over. And one of the few comics that I'd read it and then just go back to page 1 and read that thing again. And I took it to a convention, and James O'Barr signed it and stuff, but he talked to me for like an hour or so. But that dude, heavily influenced by the Velvet Underground, everything in Lou Reed and Joy Division and Iggy Pop, of course, and based a lot of the characters off of these guys. Clearly, the Crow is Alice Cooper.
Okay. Now that makes sense.
Yeah.
I never would have made that connection, but now it makes total sense.
Right, and it was it Fun Boy was based on Iggy Pop and stuff like that. And he actually has lyrics from various, a lot of Joy Division and stuff like that throughout the comic. And then the things the Crow says sometimes is actually a lyric from a band in that kind of circle. And so then, anyways, and so, they make the movie, and I loved the original movie. It wasn't a direct adaptation. It had a lot. It was pretty close for the time. It was much closer than normal, but they refined it for a general audience. So, they added a mythology saying, oh, well, the Crow brings him back to life for the specific purpose. The comic is a lot more like gut feeling emotion of, oh yeah. Iggy didn't end up playing Fun Boy, but he was in The Crow 2 as a very similar character.
Yeah.
So they added some of the mythology things, where in the comic he was Eric Draven never actually dies. He gets shot in the head and is in the hospital, and they're kind of baffled that he's not dead. Well, eventually it doesn't show it, but at some point he just gets up and leaves. So the point is, James O'Barr was writing about raw emotion, not about magic or anything. And the idea was Eric Draven was so driven by rage and the desire for revenge that he refused to let his body die. So there was no God granting him power or some magical crow. It was, he said, no, I'm not going to die. My brain has a bullet in it. No. And it references this throughout the comic to where he's refusing to die, not any magic given to him. And so there was a lot more of an emotional thing that they, in the movie, they kind of said, well, it's a crow that gives him magic. And the remake seems to be a loose adaptation of the first movie, and they've never read the comic. They watched the first movie and then made it even.
Surprised if they went back and read the comics.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no way. And he actually looks like the guy who was the Crow in one of those IDW, the much later things they made.
Like one of the Western ones, right?
Right. Yeah. There's one with where he has tattoos, but for the life of me, I can't remember what the title of that one was. But it was after James Abard long left. I think he helped a little with the first IDW Crow or something, but then he was out. Anyways, it looks like it's actually more based on that god awful TV series. So
yeah, I've adopted a zero tolerance policy of I don't watch anything based on IPs that I like until other people tell me they're good. Because
yeah, that's best.
at this point, I feel like I'm beyond a battered girlfriend. Maybe the next one will be good. Like now, I'm just like all men are horrible. You know, I'm just gonna take me time and live in a bathtub and get a cat and drink some wine. Yeah, I'm at that point now. Like even when the inevitable Saving the World comic comes out, with Sydney Sweeney playing Kiara.
Oh yeah.
I take it back. That I'll watch. Right.
Yeah, and I talked to Terry Moore. I was like, how do you not have a movie or something?
Right.
I mean, the guy started in '93, and his comic has never missed a beat. There was no time when he went, stopped publishing. The guy's just been going this whole time. And he's like, well, it's been optioned. All my comics have been optioned constantly. But the one catch is I have creative control. I can shut it down. And they don't like that. They want to make something bad. They want to destroy your IP and have no interest if you try to make something good. And that's why, Frank Miller, he had to go with Robert Rodriguez because Robert Rodriguez said, I'm connected to nothing. I do the music, I edit the movie, I'll direct it, I'll do the special effects, I do the sound, the ADR, I do everything. We don't need anybody. We can do Sin City frame by frame, identical to your comic. And so, that's one of the few that were, well, and I'd almost argue the only good adaptions have always been where that creator is directly involved. Ghost World, which is one of my favorite adaptions. It changes a lot, but it was Daniel Klaus that changed it, right? So after the fact, he was like, well, there's a few things I'd like to adjust, like move things around a little bit to make the story maybe flow better. But overall, it is a pretty straight adaptation.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But yeah, he was the screenwriter.
What's the best comic book movie of all time? I said Road to Perdition.
Right.
That was the comic was almost a storyboard for that. And people oh, that's not a real comic book. No, that was a comic book first.
Right.
It's a comic book movie. If you're talking about superhero movie, that's a different story. But comic book. I'm looking at my picture over here. I don't know if it's the pain, but your dollar store Jim. I'm realizing that I'm dollar store Alan Moore over here. Look at this.
You just need like a wizard hat and stuff.
Yeah. There we go. I get a staff and everything, and then insult everybody. Oh my comic fans are idiots. What? I'd love to have a talk with him, an hour of him just berating me for buying his products.
Right. Yes. Yeah. To be fair, he hates himself and everything else. So he hates everybody else and berates them. And then he says, everything I've ever done is garbage. And anything based on what I've done is also garbage. I'm like, okay, you cannot have darkness without light, Alan. You gotta, your opinion is void if you hate everything. What is it that you think is decent in this world?
I think he just likes to be, contrarian.
Yeah, I think so.
The sky is nice today. It's ugly. Okay, all right.
Okay, Alan. Jeez Louise. And yeah, I really like. I lean towards among those like Frank Miller and Alan Moore kind of defined comics for ever. Well, to this day, because if it wasn't for Alan Moore and Frank Miller, DC would already be out of business, because they're in the business of selling The Killing Joke and The Dark Knight Returns trade paperbacks.
Right.
Like, if you look at the top selling, still those two guys. I'm like, son of a gun. Frank Miller, you know, he's pretty old now, and you know, people give him hell about like his Marvel Marvel covers he's been doing. Like, the guy's old as hell. Our pieces don't last forever. You got to give the guy a break. I think he proved himself throughout his.
Yeah. What have you done? What have you
Right,
done?
exactly. Sure.
Ever.
Yeah, if Frank Miller does some, and now I was like that with his all of his stuff on
And
Batman.
his new crappy stuff is still selling better than your stuff at the height of
Right.
your powers.
Right,
Not
right.
at all.
And with, you know, Frank Miller is one of those writers to where it's whatever he does, I go, oh, that's cool, because it's Frank Miller. Like his Batman, some people go, well, that's not. It's like, well, no, that's his Batman. He's definitely a different Batman, but what even that crazy ass all-star Batman and Robin,
Yeah.
where he was like, I'm the goddamn Batman. Even that, I was like, yeah, but that's his Batman. So I just read it and go, man, Frank, you so crazy.
All of them are over the top. If you read the
Mhm.
the All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison,
Yeah, yeah.
that was like Magic Man. You know, that
Right.
was, you know, and there was something about that to me, that All-Star Superman, it encapsulated the best of the Silver Age, wondrously all whimsical Superman that
Right.
unfortunately has been lost.
Right. Yeah. Well, Grant Morrison, he's one of my favorite writers when he's with Frank Quitely.
Oh, yeah.
I still like him when he's working with other people, but for some reason his writing, you know, the most sacrilegious thing, I really like the new X-Men. I'm not a Marvel fan, mind you, so I jumped in when Grant Morrison started his new X-Men run, and I was like, that was to where everything from that first issue was feeding into each additional issue for the whole run. He wasn't making it up as he went along. This was like a perfectly crafted run. I loved the living hell out of that. And it's so funny because people that go, it's like, think how much stuff of that was like prophetic in that series. It was like Grant Morrison saying, this is what's about to happen. The Beast pretends to be gay to get publicity for the X-Men, but he isn't actually gay. That is actually every comic creator right now, right?
Yeah.
It was like, when I think back to that series, I was like, my God, he was telling us exactly what's about to happen, that it's all going to be about publicity and all this stuff. And, but then when he moved over to Batman, him and but yeah, that All-Star Superman was freaking amazing. And then his various runs on Batman were all some of the best Batman stuff in a long time.
Did you get his Green Lantern run?
No, I didn't get that.
I got to get that. I it's got to be good. I'm getting this comic that he did with the new, because I jumped off of DC at the New 52.
Yeah.
I saw he did a comic called Multiversity or whatever it's called. Multiverse. It's awesome. It's everything that I thought I would hate, but it just shows you that when you're a good writer, I'm trying to see if I have it over here. If you're a good writer, you're a good writer. You know, it's everything that I hate. It's about multiverses and various different forms. But I thought I had it in the stack. But it's really good.
Yeah, you know, that's well, I will say the one time Grant Morrison fumbled for me was his you know, with New 52, Grant Morrison was in charge of reinventing Superman, and nobody liked his Superman. And
really?
it was something about, it's funny because in my opinion, he's done one of the best modern Superman stories with All-Star Superman, and then couldn't have gone further off rails with his New 52 Superman with the collar and that whole bit.
That Jim Lee, I'm going to say some blasphemy over here. Jim Lee's great when he's doing other people's designs.
Yeah.
Jim Lee is one of the best comic book artists. And I do like Divine Right because it wasn't traditional superhero stuff. It was a lot of fantasy, and that's where he shined. But Jim Lee designing superhero stuff with I say that superhero costumes have to be simple and elegant. With them, every line has to be an economy of line, and he just adds lines for the hell of it. They're not military.
Right, it's all mech armor, mech armor all the time. Yeah, I'm probably the least biggest Jim Lee fan.
Okay,
but
I was afraid you were gonna clamp down on me.
Yeah. No, however, I'm a huge Gen 13 fan, and he, had a lot to do with that.
That was my favorite of the early Image comics.
Yeah, and
I guess there's two big reasons why you like that comic.
Yes, no, and it's funny. It's one of the ones where I'm like, man, it could be. They had this, core idea that should have been able to be evolved and continue today, but also Wildcats was kind of cool when I was younger. It was just X-Men, but it was still, I remember it being a fun read and whatnot. But I was reading whenever Jim Lee came to DC and started writing. He was drawing Batman, like Batman Hush and all that. It was kind of from guys like Frank Quitely, and then all of a sudden this guy from the 90s coming back and going, check out this splash page that's almost incoherent. And so I was like, oh, here comes Jim Lee. Here's all these ladies. They're 6'5", weigh 105 pounds, and all have same face. Right? And that was part of All-Star Batman was the same. So they brought Jim Lee in with Frank Miller. And I'm like, who put those two together? That's you couldn't make. Yeah, you couldn't make and that proved to be a problem because you have the whole. When I was reading, and it gets to Vicky Vale standing with her thing of wine, and I was like, this don't work. This is, and the only thing that made it worthwhile was Frank Miller, his script notes, and hearing it. I say it all the time. My wife is talking about something, and I always quote Frank Miller from those notes to where he's writing, and he'll say in the script for Jim, he's like, yeah, have Vicky Vale standing in her underwear or something. And then he wrote, make them drool, like the reader or something. I'm like, Frank Miller saying that? Because he's the least sexy comic creator. Like, that's not something he does really. There's nudity in these types of things, but he's not really a Gen 13 kind of guy, right? He's a dark, gritty and all this. So here, seeing this where he wrote, hey, Jim, make them drool and stuff. I'm like, Frank, you crazy. And but yeah, reading that thing is insane because the contrast between Frank Miller's really harsh, gritty, insane writing, and then Jim Lee's like, splash page. It's like, what are you doing, dude?
Jim Lee goes through periods. You could like Hush, I thought was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of his early Image, Divine Right was amazing, and then I think he's been phoning it in. And keep in mind, the guy's a super talented guy, so him phoning it in is still a lot better than most people. But
this is true.
You could tell when he's inspired.
Right.
And lately, I don't know. I think he's like coasting. I don't know, but he's still super talented. Let's check in with your campaign, see how it's going. Let me refresh, and then I'll bring it back up. Let's see. All right.
2K, baby.
2,000.
Awesome.
You got to buy Honey something pretty,
That's right. Well, we need a lot more money, so you guys got to really up it.
This was my tag. This is what I said. If Love and Rockets and Spider-Man made sweet love, then regretted it and abandoned their baby to be raised by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, you'd have Saving the World.
That's right. And it's funny. I read a little bit of Love and Rockets back in the day because when I was 13, I really dipped out of 13 or 14. I dipped out of mainstream comics as, becoming a rebellious teen. And so it was all Fantagraphics and all that type stuff. And so, but not a lot of Love and Rockets, a little bit. And in fact, I read the main thing I read was a Bird. Oh no, I can't remember what it is called. It's called now something Bird. Anyways, it's by Love and Rockets guys, the brothers.
Birdland.
Birdland. There you go. I
Yeah.
read Birdland and some Love and Rockets, but mainly Birdland for unknown reasons. And I think just because I had them. And somebody said, "Oh, your art reminds me of Love and Rockets."
Yeah,
and I was like, I don't see that at all. And I was looking at Love and Rockets. I was like, oh no, I totally see it. And I think because my intent is totally different than what I produce. So when I started Saving the World, my idea was I'm going to just do a straight up superhero comic, like as close to superhero mainstream as I can do. And it come out like not remotely close, but it's like I was in my teens and 20s, I was drawing alternative comics, just like like Love and Rockets and types of. And so then I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do superheroes. And then I still did it. Like I maybe did it more than ever. Like when I wasn't trying was when I really just hit that thing. And
it's because around issue 8 is where I'm like, this is a superhero comic.
Right.
Up until issue 7, it was always kind of like an indie comic with like, I hate to say no stakes because again, you tell a big story, it's getting there, but it was very personal stories, and then all of a sudden, issue 8, they're hopping through dimensions, and like if Reed Richards had showed up with the Negative Man battling a Mortis in the background, it would have fit. But if Richards and Mortis showed up in issue 3, I would have said, Tonicmole, what are you doing? Yeah.
Right. And see, I ironically, the thing I hated about mainstream comics and what really pushed me out was during that big heyday, I collected DC. It was the death of Superman, the breaking of the bat, and so on and so forth. And then it all just went, oh no, then it's 0 Hour. So there's all this multi-dimensional and there's multiple universes and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, this is all dumb. I just like Batman sitting on a roof, like in rain, going, oh, I got to defeat the, villains or whatever. That's what I loved. And when it was like Batman next to Superman, which don't make no sense, and then there's multiverses, I hated all that. Well, I got out of those comics, read indie stuff, and then in my 20s, I checked out Power Girl for no apparent reason. I hadn't read anything like that since I was a kid, and so I picked up Power Girl, and it was all about the multiverse. But first and foremost, it was about Power Girl, but it was that there's a catch-22 with Power Girl, that she's not popular, so they never retcon or fix anything. So Jimmy Palmiotti said, what if we just keep that as is and then say, what's up with that, right? So Power Girl, because she wasn't popular and nobody gave a crap, Power Girl was the only survivor from all dimensions, just because nobody corrected the thing. So she survived the Crisis of Infinite Earths. She survived every major cataclysmic thing, and just nobody thought about it until Jimmy did. He was like, this is the most powerful character in DC Comics by default because she survived everything. What is her origin? She don't even know, right? She wouldn't know. She's been everything all this whole time. And imagine being
and that Amanda Connor artwork didn't hurt at all. That was an amazing run. Yeah.
That cartoon feel, and the she's really good at emoting on a cartoon level.
Her and Kevin Maguire are probably the two best for facial expressions.
Right. And that, I was like, man, this is so interesting. With the thing that really got me was she's Supergirl. from a different world, and she grows up and becomes Power Girl. She's Superman's cousin. Well, she's been through so many universes and all this. She's not this Superman's cousin. So there's this very emotional thing of what if the people around you look just like, but you're an outcast of your own family. And it was presented in such a way as like, man, that's a real emotional thing for something so stupid of multiverses and all this stuff. I was like, man, that inspired me. And I was like, no, I'm actually into this stuff. And then I went back and read Crisis of Infinite Earths, which I hadn't. And then I go, oh, that's actually really, really good. Like Marv Wolfman wrote an amazing story that wasn't an event for an event's sake.
No,
it was like when you go from the golden to silver age.
It was a great story. Crisis on Infinite Earth. I loved through and through. The art was excellent. It was well thought out. It had twists and turns. It was a good story on its own. You know? The problem is that the DC, didn't have the guts to they should have canceled all their comics and started all over with number one. Instead, they retold the Legion of Superheroes story, The Great Darkness. Instead, they started retelling it all. We did that already. It should have been a blank canvas, start all over again. Wonder Woman's coming for the first time, not reference anything in the past. And then they did the New 52, and Jeff Johns even said, he goes, I'm not writing this Green Lantern, Yellow Lantern, Blue Lantern story all over again. Right. If we're starting all over again, count me out. So, that's the problem. All of the DC reboots have been half-assed.
Either
do it or don't. As my father would say, shit or get off the pot.
New 52 was the most baffling. So you go, with the Crisis of Infinite Earths, they go, well, this gives us a clean slate, but we'll correct the record when needed. And you go, fine, whatever. But with New 52, the problem had the same problem that Infinite Crisis tried to fix. Infinite Crisis, no, that was part of the problem. But Crisis of Infinite Earths tried to fix was worse now. It was so much worse. And so New 52 was like, we'll reboot things from scratch, except for Batman. And it's like, whoa, no. Batman is so core to this. How are you going to explain all the different things? And they're like, oh, we're not. It's Barbara Gordon is both 35 and 17 at the same time. And somehow Bruce Wayne, who's supposed to be like 30, has a 15-year-old son and is like, what are you doing? And so, it was just a whole mess because, they didn't want to retell stories. They didn't have the balls to do what they did. But so all of that, all of these cliches that all these comics do, I started to go, no, they're told horribly, they're executed horribly, but they are a core to what mainstream comics are. And so when I start doing when I thought of saving the world, it's all about those. Like it's all the things I hate in comics told I'm hoping well, right? Like it's done. Well, also it's all in advance, right? I already wrote this. Whereas that was the biggest problem with DC and Marvel. It's reactionary writing. And then different writers come in and say, no, let's retcon that. And whereas this is me saying, no, this is all on purpose.
So you have a final issue in mind? This is all leading to the end? Either the world gets saved or it doesn't?
Yeah, kind of. Not that saving the world, the comic, or it all like ends. It's that the arc I started with number one, that is all about this mysterious giant battle in the future, and Lily and Wepawet and all their that all has this wrap up, but it's not like the end of everything. It's just the first major arc wraps up, and so it'll be like between issue 20 and 30, because I add issues of just fun stuff. So I have no idea like which one I'm going to decide. Okay, now I'm going to move forward with the story. Because I'd had a plan for between now and issue 15 having a bunch of those, and I felt like I had too many big story moments happening in a row, because a lot of my readers like the stupid stuff, and I like creating it. And so
I said this, and I believe it, that you're one of the best with dialogue.
Thank you.
I love your dialogue. It reads so real, you know. And you know, I have a couple scripts written out for my comic, and I try to say the dialogue out loud, you know, and you know, fortunately or unfortunately, I kind of kept the kids out of it. Like, there's no real teenage characters as of yet.
Right.
I don't know how the hell, I'm a 55-year-old man without kids. I don't know how kids speak, and I wonder, like with using like kid dialogue and pop culture references, that only makes it dated.
Right.
But your characters are pretty young, and it seems real. But the thing is, it seems like kids right now, or kids back in the 90s, or kids back in the 80s, you know, it's kind of timeless. Because I don't using specific slang. You just kind of keeping the emotional tone, which I do like.
Yeah. There's kind of a universal thing that even back to the 60s to some degree, that if you just leave out, and I think it's 90s, like you can go pretty straight night. Like my comic takes place in 96. So any slang is generally from the 90s, but that spreads out to slang was largely the same in the 80s and the 70s, even the 60s. And then 90s culture, especially with like slang and so, continues to this day. So as long as I don't say like things you would stay away from is like groovy, well, that's particularly 60s or 70s. And then there's things like modern times, yas queen, that's like now. And so, you know, there's and but all those are things that no one actually ever says. It's those things that are kind of like and it's funny because there's things that we love that do that bad thing. It was just at the time it felt different. But like the Ninja Turtles, cowabunga, dude, let's go skateboarding and eat pizza, right? Okay, that's cringe. That's actually super cringe for the 80s, right? Not everybody's riding skateboards, eating pepperoni pizza and saying cowabunga, dude. But there's lots of things like that. Whereas, today when we see them do it, like, I wouldn't even know what it is. What is that fake thing where it's like, hello, fellow teens, where they're all like, yeah, down with capitalism and yes, queen, and all these things, right?
It's funny. I'm reading some older comics, and there's an ad. I wish I could just bring it out right now because you just made me think of it. But there's an ad of what some executive thinks of a gamer. So this comic came out in the mid 90s, and it's got a kid with like that John Hughes California hair down the side. He's got sunglasses on, and he's got a collar around his neck, almost like a dog collar.
Yeah. And
then a denim jacket. And it says, Dave Johnson says that this game is totally rad.
That's right.
And I wish I could. I'll find that ad and I'll put it on Twitter if I can find it later. But every time, even as a kid, when I saw that ad, I'm like, this is just like, yeah. What do those kids like? The kids like the collars. They like those jackets. You know, it's totally rad.
Right. It's radical, dude. Yeah. And I think I've kind of been aware of that for a long time. Like when I was a teen, it was always the skateboards and eating pizza and saying radical.
And that's why I hated that's why I never read the teenage. They've always, like, again, it was like, this is, I never liked parody.
Right.
Like parody comics have always been so when I saw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I'm like, they're making fun of the X-Men.
Oh, man.
They're making fun of Frank Miller. They're making fun of comic books. Like, and at the time I was a righteous punk rocker,
Right.
They're making fun of this. I can't stand it. And then I see the cartoon, cowabunga, dude.
Right.
And then you go to McDonald's and they got like a Ninja Turtle on a skateboard next to a Whopper. like, I can't get into this crap. I just can't.
And there's these. I was talking to somebody, and I was like, there's a generational thing that even us old guys have to remember. We're not all part of the same generation, and there will be these things that, like me with Ninja Turtles. Well, I grew up with the cartoon and stuff, so I don't see it. I go, no, this is the coolest thing ever, right? But then there's guys who are slightly younger than me who are like, man, it's the coolest thing? Pokemon and Power Rangers. And I'm like, that's the gayest thing I've ever heard. What's wrong with you? I just want to hit you. Why do I want to beat you? And it's because I was 18 or 19 whenever Power Rangers come out. And I was like, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? This sounds like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're just trying to copy the same thing.
Oh, He-Man. Oh,
right?
My God, did I hate He-Man.
Oh, really?
I still hate everything. Yeah, it was too young for me. And this is going to sound... But it is the gayest thing. It's I just picture this oiled wrestler in a loincloth, He-Man.
I get that. I totally get it. I would
Beast Man, and like they were just, it was totally a bunch of, at the time, it was a bunch of 45-year-old guys like, what do these kids like? The kids like Beast Man.
Yeah.
Bomb Man. They were just like picking up stuff. What would Pencil Man work? No, not Pencil Man. Give me something else. Chicken Man.
And they were going to. Originally, She-Ra was She-Man. They wanted a He-Man, but they wanted a girl version, so they're going to call her She-Man. And somebody said, "Yeah, you cannot call this character She-Man."
I picture like these four guys. They had ponytails, and they were doing lines of cocaine. Like, He-Man, he's got a power sword.
Let's do this.
But I fully admit, if I was 6 or 7 years old when it came out, I'd have my whole house would be covered in He-Man.
Oh, I loved He-Man when I was a kid. Of course,
yeah.
And I'm sorry, Pixel Trady. First time he comes on the channel, I'll basically tell him everything he loves sucks.
Right? I know. I'm sitting here with a friggin' mermaid book. Militarized mermaid. I hate parody. Thankfully, it's not really parody, but
right.
Well, no, it's totally fine. I'm 45, and so I was like right on the cusp of like He-Man and Voltron and GI Joe and all that. I mean, it was a perfect time for me. I'm sorry you didn't like He-Man, but dude, I was all over that.
Yeah, see, I was 43, so it was all about He-Man, Ghostbusters, and all those types of things. And
Gargoyle was excellent.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah,
that was a great comic. It was an original concept, that people love. Here's another one. I hate Scooby-Doo. I've never liked Scooby-Doo. I never, I hated it as a kid. I thought it was stupid. It's always the guy that you expect. There's never a surprise. I don't know. I love Johnny Quest. I love the Venture Brothers. Oh my God, do I love the Venture Brothers? I sit and I think like those guys who write the Venture Brothers. They're like, somewhere there's a nerd in the basement with a beard. That's our audience. Like when that debut, whenever there's a new episode of Venture Brothers, my wife's like, "I'll leave you alone." She goes into the bedroom and leaves. I'm like, what got her is they went into a basement in one of the episodes of the Venture Brothers, and Firestarter from Prodigy was down there. He was like locked since the 90s. My wife was like, "Oh my God!" Then she got into it because that terrible techno 90s music is what she likes. I thought I was going to lose a bunch of subscribers when I said I don't like Scooby-Doo. I know Pete loves Scooby-Doo. He's in my chat earlier. Yeah, leave Scooby alone. I actually, everybody likes the post-apocalyptic Scooby. I agree. I'm trying to think of what was like. Star Wars came out when I was in 3rd grade. So, oh my God, like it was if they launched a heat-seeking missile directly at me.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I had my first bout with my realization that I was racist in 4th grade. We were playing Star Wars, and for some reason they all elected me to give out who the characters were. So I was Darth Vader. You know, that was it. I was Darth Vader. My friend Carl was Luke. My friend Drew was Han Solo. This girl Karen, she got to be Princess Leia. And there was one black kid in the school. One black kid, Dwight. And I'm going down to, and then I realized Chewbacca was the only one left. And I'm like, fourth grade, I'm like moving my fingers slowly, like, uh-oh, I'm going to tell the black kid that he's Chewbacca. And I'm like, you're Chewbacca. And he went, excellent. And he was, I dodged the bullet in fourth grade. But that was my first realization. Maybe I shouldn't make the black kid beat Chewbacca.
Well, Lando would save you just a few
This was
years
before
later.
Empire Strikes
Right.
Back. Yeah.
Too soon. You know, it's funny. When I was a kid, I loved Star Wars, the 3 movies. I had the little the Ewok little thing, and oddly enough, I wasn't a rich kid, but I knew one, and he was a little older, like 5 years older than me or whatever. He was selling all of his Star Wars stuff when I was a little kid, and I bought it. So I had like a Millennium Falcon and all this stuff just secondhand.
I always wanted the Millennium Falcon, and my friend Sean, he had the Millennium Falcon and the Death Star. Oh my God!
Yeah. I had the Millennium Falcon, the AT-AT Walker, Jabba the Hutt with his little thing, but all of it was. I think the kid actually he just gave it all to me, and so I had all that. But when I was an adult, more recently, me and my wife sat down to watch all of the movies in sequential order. Now, this is where I'm going to lose you a bunch of subscribers, and my campaign will suddenly go to $0. We were watching them. I was like, okay, we did them in sequential, as in the story. So we started with episode 1 through 3.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, easily the 3 worst movies ever made. Unbearable to watch. Characters so unlikable that you're like, I can't wait until this guy's on the ground burning to death, right? And then
so far you're with me. I'm agreeing.
Yeah, and then the heroes of these 3 movies are incompetent. Like, they made this bad stuff all happen due to just being complete idiots. And so Yoda's like, well, who knew that was going to happen? Everybody, including the viewer. I mean, this seemed really obvious outcome to this whole thing. Well, that little kid really tricked us. A child tricked you all that he's clearly the most evil person ever. And then they're like, how did he become so evil? He was the most irritating person on the entire planet. Of course, he never didn't go to the dark side. It was like his whole trajectory was, I'm going to become Darth Vader. And I'm like 9, and I'm already like, you know where this is going to end. And so I was like, oh my God. But then the movies were just made so poorly that the writing and everything was like a modern movie where you hate everybody and you go, how did they not know? It was like that. It ushered in that. So anyways, and then I watched the 3 old movies that I love. And I was like, you know what? These aren't great either. These don't totally make sense. Like, there's so many plot holes in the first one. It drove me crazy as an adult because I was like, did he use his mind powers on the photon to make a 90-degree turn? Also, why did that blow up this whole thing? Anyways,
plot.
I know. Oh yeah, spoiler alert if you haven't seen The New Hope. So then
and why did he make out with his sister?
Right.
Because George Lucas made them up one at a time with no. Right. You know what I mean? Like without an editor, you know, without like the movies were good despite George Lucas. I hate to say that, you know.
Right. Yeah, the 2 better ones wasn't directed by him. He directed the first one and then had different people come in for the next 2, which were better, still full of plot holes. So as an adult, I was like, okay, these are kids' movies. They're easy to enjoy as a kid, just like Ninja Turtles or anything else. But if you bring in an adult sensibility, you're like, this don't make sense at all. What is going on here? And kind of like hiding Luke on the planet that his father grew up on from his father.
Right.
What? Now, okay, George Lucas says, oh, yeah, they kiss like their brother and sister. That's awkward. But don't worry, I just didn't know I had no idea. It's like, okay, George, but here's the problem. In every single movie you had anything to do with in Star Wars, you have some sort of bizarre, subtle reference to hentai. So let's go back to the first one. There's a little kid and this girl who's much older than him. And he's like, oh yeah, they meet when he's 9 and she's like, I don't know, 15 or something. I was like, yeah, there's like a whole hentai thing. I forget what they even call it, but it's where
That's
the
why,
girl.
in my mind, it would make sense, because when Anakin says, "You betrayed me," how did he betray him? It only makes sense if Obi-Wan is Luke's father.
Yeah.
Because if you watch those movies and you pretend that Obi-Wan, because in the second movie she goes, "Oh, my old friend," she's all excited to see her old friend. Now,
Right.
Ian McGregor is a good-looking guy. They're close in age. She doesn't give a crap about this 6-year-old Anakin. Nobody liked him. She's not excited. She's excited to see Obi-Wan. And then who jumps out when that penis snake poisons her? Who jumps out the window like a jealous boyfriend, or Obi-Wan jumps out.
Yeah.
And Anakin hangs out. And then later on, who's there at the birth of the kids? And they blame it all on, because the council, he's a master Jedi, you can't get married, blah blah blah.
Right.
They blame it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would make so much more sense if they revealed that Obi-Wan was really the father.
Also, a slug creature with a slave girl, right? That's number 2. So all of a sudden, he has 2 hentai, and then brother and sister. Well, that's a big thing with the Japanese and all that. That's my hypothesis, that he's actually a big fan of hentai. And I mean, how is George not? Come on now.
And then Darth Jar Jar is my favorite fan theory for the prequels. Yeah, I saw the sequels. I saw the first movie from the sequels. I saw the second movie from the sequel, and then I was done. I never saw the third.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't until me and my wife, because we went to the first one and I was like, oh boy, that's bad. Then the second one, I was like, yeah, it's not getting better. And then everybody said, oh, the third one, he finally gets it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to watch that. So me and my wife watched them in order. I was like, yeah, he didn't get it. It's not good. It's still bad. Oddly enough, Clone Wars, the show, I was like, okay, this fixes so many problems. Anakin's likable and all this. It builds this sadness to what's going to happen. And so suddenly I was kind of into it. And then you jump back into the movies and I'm like, oh no, it's all out the window. It is all crap again. And then Disney comes up and just kind of
I know people get mad. I'm done with Star Wars. I didn't watch The Mandalorian. I'm not watching it. I'm done. I look at there's 9 movies. Okay. And there's I know people get mad, but Return of the Jedi was half good. So there's only 2.5 good movies out of 9. So what?
Right.
That's, I don't know. That's a 2.5 batting average. How many? I loved it. It came out when I was out 3rd grade. For 10 years of my life, I was Star Wars. But I went back to superheroes.
Right. And that batting average is what I always humors me. Now, guys who are slightly younger than us, they were little kids when the prequels came out.
And they love it.
And they love it.
Yeah.
But me as an adult, I go, oh, hell, I would argue there's 9 movies and there's some of them that are like, you go, okay, that's not bad. But yeah, the batting average is like staggeringly low. And so, and I think that now I will say, no, it's hard to say between the prequels and then the sequels. I don't know which is worse. The one that I find comedically bad is certainly Rise, the last movie, because it had such a setup to do something and then just completely went off rails. But, Disney has this infrastructure where they're like, okay, it's a template for a movie. You don't make a movie. You just add your you just add your pieces to a template and it makes a movie that's watchable. So when we went and watched Rise, I was like, it's funny how watchable this total garbage is because of that ghastly Disney thing where they go, okay, now this happens, you make them happy, you make them sad, and then you do this. But when you step back from the movie, you go, this thing makes no sense. This is all the MCU movies are like that too, where you're like, you could feed anything into this formula and it will be viewable, but it won't necessarily make sense on a second viewing or anything.
And I think that Star Wars has it's a limited premise.
Yeah.
Once the Empire was defeated, there was nothing else to do with Star Wars.
Right.
It's a World War II movie. You know,
right.
That's what it is. It's about World War II. You know, the equipment is space age World War II stuff.
Right.
You know, and the rebels are the the little guys fighting in maybe Vietnam or whatever. But once the Empire was tackled, once the Empire was defeated, the story was over. Like, you're not going to. And then even they could have borrowed from Alexander the Great. So Alexander the Great conquers everybody. Alexander dies. Whatever. What they should have had was Leia is now head of the reinstated Galactic Council, and what they should have had was all the worlds. You know, it's herding cats. We got different planets, different races. You know, it kind of wrote itself. No, we don't want to be part of the Alliance. We're on our own now. Now the Hutts are taking over. Now other gangs are taking over.
Right.
Now what they did was they did the First Order, and it's the Empire all over again. It showed that Obi-Wan died for nothing. There was no purpose.
Right.
There was nothing mattered. We're all back to status quo. Had they did, Princess Leia is like, guys, she's in charge of a loose confederation of alien races who have different religions, different sensibilities, different cultures, showing how difficult it is to keep the peace. And then Leia is just like, do we have to like become the Empire, like and crush this? You know, what I mean, that would have been a powerful, important movie.
And the Dark Knight trilogy, even though the last movie was pretty bad, but for the story of the Dark Knight trilogy, I felt they did an amazing job at exploring ideas that are similar, right? So, Batman and Commissioner Gordon having to lie for the greater good, but then that lie biting them in the ass. Star Wars certainly had, because even though the prequel trilogy were terrible movies, they told a really good story, right? So the Jedi control everything. And due to their hubris and arrogance, evil just festers and takes them over. And you're exactly right. The story, every story has one conclusion or one sequel. Like, there is no alternate idea. And as a writer, it's up to you to find what that is. And for Star Wars, you're 100% correct. The only story to tell after for the sequels was that now what do you do? The Jedi already caused the problem in the first place. And now you have all these factions and stuff. How do you not become the monster that you defeated? That's
why Luke, in my mind, Yoda knew what was going to happen. He knew the future. He knew that Luke was going to turn into Vader.
Right.
That was his destiny. He kept saying, and Mace Windu was like, this guy's going to bring the balance. Mace Windu was a bad guy. Mace Windu was excited about balance because if you look at Coruscant and everything, there was too much good. Balance could only mean that evil was going to get restored.
Right.
And Gi Khan was already on the path to becoming a Sith. I mean, he's messing with the dice. And all the Jedi, they look at Anakin, they're like, this is the guy that's going to restore balance, meaning this is the guy that's going to bring more evil into the world. We don't want to have anything to do with him. Yoda knew that. Yoda went off on a swamp rather than deal with and then that's what Luke was supposed to do. To me, Luke, when all of a sudden he started beating down Vader, that's when he turned. That's when he turned to the dark side, and he got enough power to throw the emperor off, and he was evil. Doesn't mean he turns into a raving lunatic right there. It just means the corruption is in him. Now he still loves his people, he still loves his friends, but he now is like, I did what it took was I took in this power to defeat this.
Right.
The set of movies should have been the empire is defeated. What do we do? Okay. Now, the Tonicmole people over here on this sector of the galaxy, they're getting a little uppity, and they don't want to pay taxes like the Athenian League. The Athenian, okay, the Persians are coming, so we got to go mess around, slap around the Thebes for a little while until they pay up their taxes. Kind of Trump going around to Europe saying, you got to pay your fair share. Or Putin's, and that's what Luke, I'll go. And then slowly, next thing you know, this new galactic republic of goodness headed by Princess Leia and Luke, and then Han Solo's in the background going, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. I think I'm going to leave. And it would have been this good guy. Next thing you know, and everybody's got swords to him. Like you went too far. You are now. That would have been amazing.
That would have been cool.
And instead they didn't even put the three main people in a scene together.
Right.
And I'll never forgive them for that.
Yeah, they tried to just tell the same story. And Disney wants to make the most money safely, and that's exactly what they attempted to do. And but yeah, now I've dipped out of both Marvel and Star Wars, which ironically was never even a huge fan of Marvel at all. Just the movies was kind of fun, and to go and see all these movies and then talk about them on Twitter. But in the end, I saw the first season of Mandalorian, maybe the first two, which was really good.
50 backers. That was my goal, to get you 50 backers.
We did it.
Nice.
I've been refreshing and watching 50 backers. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
I get nothing out of this. I just want to see everybody succeed.
We just all got to become rich so we can buy tanks and stuff and sports cars.
I would just love to be able to hire people to make comics all day.
Mm-hmm.
What a better way to spend your life, making comics.
Yeah. My dream, that will likely unattainable, but it's still the dream, is so I have Shabby coming in for On Call Heroes. So I'll write it and he'll draw it. And so we'll have 2 series. And but to have, because like the Saving the World universe, throughout, like, it mainly takes place throughout Texas up to about Nebraska, and then over into the South and stuff. And so there's superheroes and villains everywhere, and some of them are totally cut off. So there's thousands of stories to tell. And in my comic, I get around to, these different people in different states that this affect. But like, I'd like in the future to be able to manage to where different writers and creators come in and have their own little pocket of the Saving Verse. So this is what happens in Missouri, and there's a whole little group of superheroes that do their thing there. Whereas I have mine in, so far it's Kansas, Oklahoma, and
I've noticed
Texas.
You've been avoiding like the big cliche states, like there's no New York, there's no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I found that baffling that every Marvel superhero is in New York. And I'm like, how many does it take to save New York? Right. It's like because they
been to New York lately, apparently more than they have.
Take more, a few more.
For real.
And Batman's a little more feasible that, there's the Bat family trying to save this whole city. But overall, there's like 2 cities that every superhero exists in both Marvel and DC. And I found that baffling and boring. And because they always talk about diversity, I agree. The comic book industry desperately needs diverse ideas and area and points of view. However, if all of those are in New York, that's not diversity at all. That's just New York. And they're like, yeah, but this person's a different race or something in New York. Yeah, it's still a New Yorker. It's still a New Yorker, and it's still boring. Because
You ever read How to Talk Dirty and Influence People? What the hell's the name of that author? The comedian who got blacklisted in the 50s, went kind of nuts. Marcus, you got to know who I'm talking about. But he wrote a book called How to Talk Dirty but he says if you're from Brooklyn, you're Jewish. Because I don't care if you're Catholic, I don't care. He goes, but if you're from Brooklyn, you got a certain mindset and you're Jewish.
Right.
Yeah. So I know if you're a New Yorker, you got the same. Lenny Bruce. Thank you, Travis.
Lenny Bruce.
Yeah. Surgery. It's not so much the surgery that bothers me, it's the aftermath of anesthesia that just messes me up. So, but I just can't think. But Lenny Bruce said that. He goes, if you're from Brooklyn, you're Jewish.
Yeah,
and if you're from New York, you got a point of view of a New Yorker.
Right, like in Kansas and Oklahoma, there's all types of races and religions, and there is far left, far right.
Hey, Illustrator Monk is here. Do you want to pop in, Illustrator Monk? The link is here if you want to come in. I don't know if you're shy about coming into but
he walks around his house naked.
So what? Maybe you never know.
Hey, we need to sell comics one way or another.
We can say whatever it takes, right?
And so hold on, I was refreshing my thing. I am totally lost. I got too many. Where am I? What in the hell's going on?
I don't know. You're talking to a guy who's still recovered from anesthesia.
Yeah.
I can't. Oh, okay, Illustrator Monk.
Oh, he's at work.
His day job. Yeah.
What in the hell were we talking about?
I don't know.
Okay,
I interrupted you because we got to 50. We got to 50 sales, so I got to check.
You're talking about Lenny Bruce or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Talk about whatever you want. Pixel, you've been quiet. What do you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, that's right. We've been talking over him.
Oh no, I don't care. I'm just here to support you. But
the Pixel's coming on my channel, or your partner's coming on my channel, right?
Yeah. Unless you want to do the show earlier in the day, then I can pop in like times like this. But
what time did we schedule it for? Because the problem is,
I think you did 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 my time because I'm on the Pacific Coast. But
what day? What day? Is it next week?
19th, I think. Let me see.
Because I'm off next week because I took another week off because of the surgery. So yes, if it's next week, you know what? Private message me after we're off and we'll reschedule this so we can talk.
Yeah, no problem.
Next week I got no plans because just as of yesterday I requested another week off.
Yeah, you got to take care of that. That's hard to get back to work right after that.
Yeah.
So I work remote.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm a construction worker. There's nothing being built in my basement, so I got to leave the house.
Yeah, I've been doing this gig as a software engineer for years and years. So I'm probably almost 10 years now working from home for the most part. So
and my wife is working from home upstairs. She was supposed to go in the office this week, but she requested to stay home with me.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Tonic, do you? I know you're a full-time comic guy. Does your wife? Is she doing comics? Is she working?
Yeah, no, she just helps me shipping stuff and selling things. So I mean, it's you get like it's really hard to keep up like a extreme pace like with a day job, obviously, but without a runaway hit, it's hard to make ends meet. But a lot of it I have like well, I spend very little on my comic, right? Because I draw it and write it, and then I just have my friends and stuff that I pay to do covers and whatnot. And so, but even then, yeah, it's hard as hell. But like it was the end of 2020, and they put me on pills and all this type of stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go as long as I possibly can. And it's been 4 years. And so, like, if everything crumbled tomorrow, I'd be like, hey, that was 4 years of making comics, which was an impossible thing. If you asked me 5 years ago, I'd go, no, that's not going to ever happen. Because that's why I drew, I drew Saving the World a long time ago and just put it away. I quit drawing. I tried to quit writing, but the ideas wouldn't stop because it just felt like, this meaningless exercise. Because how the hell do you make comics and have people buy them when you live in Oklahoma, So it was almost painful. And so I tried. What's that?
Do you go to conventions?
No. Oh, I didn't even want to do that because I was like, no, it just made me feel bad seeing people make comics, right? So I just out of it. Like I was done. Because I mean, since I was a little kid, I was wanting to make comics, and it felt like a weight on my shoulders. Also, when I was in school, everybody goes, oh, when you grow up, you're going to be an artist, right? And that don't happen. Like everybody keeps telling you that. Now, keep in mind, it was kind of funny because and I knew this when I was when they were saying that, I was fully aware that I was a small fish in an even smaller pond. So like I wasn't great. It was that I was good compared to everybody else that couldn't draw at all. But you got guys like Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, not 17. They're doing art that destroys everybody in the industry that came before, right? And people now are like, oh, Rob Liefeld couldn't draw feet. It's like, no, you got to look at the art when those guys entered, right? It was nothing like that. There was Todd McFarlane, you look at his Spider-Man. Can you imagine being a guy in that industry and Todd McFarlane shows up? There was nothing like that. In European comics, you see some high-level illustrators, but in American comics, no. It was these guys were just they could basically draw, and that's who chose that career. But then Todd McFarlane shows up, and he's like, I'm drawing Spider-Man jumping through a city, and every window in the building has somebody looking out doing something. There's hundreds of people on the street. Just his web alone has more lines than an entire comic book,
Yep.
A year prior. And so, anyways, I grew up in that. So everybody's like, you're going to be a comic book artist. Like, yeah, no, how? That's not going to happen. I'm so far behind. And so even today at 40 something, I'm not even in the running of where comic book artists are at 17 or 18, right? And it wasn't through lack of trying. It was my skill level is just where it is, And now drawing comics constantly has helped dramatically. I was talking to Brian Baugh, and I was like, it's on the job training. People go, how do I get better? It's like, well, if you're not just naturally super talented, you just need to draw comics a lot and then get people to buy those comics so you can try to get better. And someday you might actually draw a legitimate comic book. That's what I'm hoping for someday.
You could see your art. You could see definitely in Brian Baugh's art, the first issue of Wolf and Batsy, he drew that like 20 years ago.
Right.
And issue 7 is his most recent artwork. And you could, oh my God, could you see the improvement? And I loved I loved it from issue 1.
Right.
Like I said this I backed everything Alterna put out. And again, that's how I found your comic. So I didn't read any promos. I didn't want to know anything about it. I just kind of wanted to be surprised. And I was like, oh, this Wolf and Batsy, I kind of knew about it. And I'm not even joking. I was sitting in this chair when I read it, and I was like standing up, like walking around. This is awesome.
Right.
How did I not know that? And it only got better. Saving the World, I was reading it, and of course I was like, oh my God, this guy sent me number 5 when I forgot to order it. Right. So that meant a lot. And every issue it's getting better and better. Mm-hmm. And then the Lillian Wapwet, I still can't say that name. That special that came out, that was it. That was it. That was the issue that I was a fan, but now like I'm a fanboy. Like I can't wait. I had to look in. I bought your Saving the Universe off of eBay.
Mhm.
You know, your first attempt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that was a you know, being nimble, like I think in crowdfunding or any comics, being nimble is very important. So I did my first 2 issues that was about Kira and Nora. Well, no, I did my first issue that was about Kira and Nora, but I was like, but man, I have this whole story arc, and I want readers to know, so they'll buy issue 2, that this is bigger. So I did that Saving the Universe that had Lily and Wepawet in it, that because they are the core of the major arc, and Kira and Nora are goofballs running around in this very serious, dangerous world. But I didn't have that dangerous world in the first issue because it's just about Kira and Nora. So I shipped out that Saving the Universe #1 just for every physical reader. I just added it on there. And Gypsy first appears in there, though it's ironic because I talk about how this is everything that mainstream does. And I even retconned Saving the Universe #1 because Gypsy's in there, but she's not really the same Gypsy that you meet in #5 or 6 or something.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing with my comic Heroic Tales. The issue #1 is getting your toes in the water. Like,
Yeah,
there's going to be a big, universal threat, but that doesn't mean anything if you don't like the characters, if you don't know who the characters are. Like in the first issue, it's my character, the Patriarch. He's like one of the biggest superheroes in the world. He's the most popular superhero, and he's going around. I don't tell his origin. I just tell him being a superhero because I figured, do you care about the origin of some guy? Like, how many times, like, people like, I don't care about Batman's origin anymore. So, but then issue 2, you're going to start seeing the threat. So I think without thinking about it, I think I'm following the same path that you did. #1 is kind of like lighthearted. One of the guys said his biggest criticism of he read the script. He says it's small stakes. I'm like, well, if Thanos attacked in Iron Man #1, nobody would have cared. It wouldn't have made the impact. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm saving Thanos for when people care about Thanos. Let's be realistic. Nobody cares about my characters yet.
Right.
But it totally worked. I got to like Kara to the point when you introduced Nora. I got a little mad at Nora because she was taken away from Kara. And then Lily and I got mad at Lily because she's taken away from Nora and you know what I mean? And now you got Hobo Girl. I'm pissed off at her because she's taken. And it's the same with the Venture Brothers. The Venture Brothers, I fall in love with every character.
Right.
And then every couple of seasons, they introduce a new character that you're like, I don't care about this character. I love this character now. So,
right.
That's what I want. Like, I'm a little worried, and I was talking with one of the guys who's helping me, do all the computer. Because issue #2, I'm introducing another character. Each issue of my comic is focusing on a different character, and then the team's going to form. Like Patriarch is barely going to be in issue #2. It's going to be a character, Mary Sue, that's inspired by Ray from the Star Wars. She's perfect in every way. She already So where do you go with the perfect character? You'll see.
Right.
So will people get mad? Like, well, where's the paint? So when you said you got to be flexible, I'm already thinking, if people are going to get mad, like I was talking to Renzo, could you handle like a Patriarch solo comic? And then, like, would you be mad if I had somebody else do Heroic Tale?
Right.
I don't know. So I'm already thinking lateral if I got to make moves,
Right. And see,
comic book, it's a business. I'm not here to indulge myself.
Right. And see,
indulging myself gives me Squirrel Girl comics that nobody buys.
Right. And it's funny, the indulging. Terry Moore had said something about this, where he was doing something in his comic, and his wife said, this is really self-indulgent. Does your reader want this? You might want it, but does your reader want this? And but at the same time, also sometimes what your reader wants is not what they need, and so you've got to make those judgment calls as you go. And
I remember Marvel Wolfman said that. He goes, sometimes you got to give the fan exactly the opposite of what they want.
Right. And I strongly disagree with. There's lots of things that in comics that for instance, you know, your character needs weaknesses. You know, like you don't want them too omnipotent, because that's hard to write. It's like, yeah, but it's really fun to write because you got to decide, okay, they're like Wepawet, he's basically omnipotent. What I have to find his weaknesses, right, to write the story and make it compelling. At the same time, like you're talking about, everybody talks about, well, there needs to be stakes, high stakes. No, not at the beginning. Nobody, hey, you're 100% right. Nobody gives a shit about your stakes. And no matter how much you try to convince the reader in number one that there's high stakes, they don't care whether your characters live or die, not yet. So
right, they're not invested in my character yet. You know,
right, right.
So I'm
And
trying to I'm just throwing them into my world.
Right. You need them. Your entire job for your first several issues will be to make people love those characters, not to, oh, hey, I'm slinging some big space opera or whatever, or superhero opera.
And I'm also, it's self-contained. If if you buy issue number one, you're going to get a full story because
right.
You know, I don't want to gamble. You know, I think that's a rookie mistake. I'm going to start out with a 6-issue arc, and you know that's going to change the world. No, it's
right.
a one and done story.
Yeah.
I hope you like it. You will like it. Everybody who likes superheroes is going to like my comic. And if you get issue number 2, you're going to understand issue number 2.
Right.
Issue number 1. But I hope you, if you miss out on issue number 1, and then issue number 2 comes out, you get back. You know what? Let's get issue number 1 too. You know, because like Marvel style, every issue is somebody's first issue. You can enjoy them all, and then. But I don't want to do that rookie mistake of like, here we go. This is gonna change the way you think about everything. This is gonna, you know, but just stay with me for 24 issues.
Right. Yeah. Which are
crowdfunding, dude. You know, I don't have 19 years to tell a story. I got
sure. And one key thing when someone starts pacing it like it's a streaming series or something, folks have to remember, me and Brian Baugh have maybe made it longer than any human in crowdfunding history, and I'm on 11 and he's on 12.
Right.
Anything beyond that, you are just like, you're going crazy. And
how many? I knew you got the Little Mermaid. I figured that I missed issue number 1.
No, that's we're still crowdfunding issue 1 because we're still in production for it. Yeah. Okay. So this is actually my first book. So
a little embarrassed because sometimes I feel like I should have everybody's comic, and like what's his name? I had Adam Miller on, and I knew about Iron Age icons, but I thought it was a magazine, and I didn't even submit because I'm like, you know, and now I'm kicking myself because I think it's a brilliant idea.
Oh, that's great. Actually, our character's in it too. But so Eric has crowdfunded or has been part of crowdfunders in the past. In fact, he did some artwork for Dave for American Bliss. He did the art for American Bliss, and then Piper has done editing and done some writing for a few books as well. So they've at least had some experience with this. This is my first time really coming in and having a concept and putting the team together and doing all this. But we've done really well with our campaign. I think the timing was what really helped us though, because if we had launched it any time after when we did, I think it wouldn't have done nearly as well. It was predicated on the fact that the movie was coming out. We were making fun of the movie. I focused all my marketing on, just attacking the Disney accounts and trying to get as many people that hated the idea of a new updated Little Mermaid movie to
if I see the phrase updated or for a modern audience, I'm out the door. I'm done.
Yeah.
No, which is why I'm kind of taking a risk having a character called Mary Sue. You know.
Oh yeah. That's all good though. But yeah, we walk a fine line. There's a few places where we were a little concerned about the way like we were handling the characters, but we've leaned heavily on the fact that it's the Hans Christian Andersen story, that it's been retold with an 80s edge. But it did a lot better than I thought it was going to. We obviously had our own predictions and kind of like hopes and goals for it. I think 15 to 20 is kind of where we really wanted it to go. We're just over 200. I think we're like $250 away from hitting 20K at this point. and I'm pretty sure we'll hit that within the next couple of weeks. But at this time, I think we've still got quite a bit of artwork to do. So we're looking at summer for delivery. But we've locked down all of our vendors and stuff, and I've already fulfilled certain things like the skateboard decks and some of the original art and stuff. But, yeah, we're getting there. It's going really well. But we're doing self-contained 60 pages, and we didn't want to say, okay, we're going to do multiple books here because we honestly didn't know how this first one was going to go.
Right. I think setting yourself up for a realistic goal. And I made pint glasses. I got a t-shirt. I got one t-shirt being made right now because I got to wear a t-shirt when I start doing promoting, but keeping it simple, stupid is I think the best way for me to do it. Like I like what Tonic's doing. Tonic, you got a comic book, you got stickers, you know what I mean? You had an art print at one point, you're not going crazy and promising stuff that's going to make it too difficult to run a campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I built up, we were talking about like the, continuing stories like self-contained, and my big deal was like having these self-contained issues, because when I was a little kid, you hear people like, they're like, I'm a comic collector and all this, I have all these. Well, as a kid, I loved comics, but I had 6 of them, right? But that's all I needed to be a Batman super fan. Was I had 10 comics or something like that. It wasn't until I was like 12 that I really started collecting comics, right? But I read those 6 comics over and over. It helped that they were Norm Brayfogle Batman, so like they were freaking the best comics ever made.
With the big apes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was Todd McFarlane before Todd McFarlane.
No, you're 100% right, because I remember picking up his comic and it was like his cinematic quality.
Forgive me for eating, everybody. I got to eat when I get dizzy right now.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
I bet it.
That his cinematic quality, was amazing. So I read those same comics.
I think Norm Brayfogle, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he did only 50 comics. He's like Steranko. Steranko is a legend, and I think Steranko did something like 38 comics or something like that. Marcus, I'm sure you know. Marcus is my fact checker whenever I talk nonsense.
Yeah, if so, all of them were Batman, because he did that Detective Comics run with Alan Grant.
Yeah.
So freaking amazing. But so that inspired me to where I was like, as a kid, I just had these handful of comics, not in sequential order, and so
and you could still read them.
I could still read them over and over. And so for the first 5 issues, every story was large, it would hint towards future things or something. But every story, you could just get that comic and read it. And my first time I ever took the big chance on a to be continued was issue number 6. Because I was writing it and I was like, I'm going to have to chop a bunch of stuff off to fit this into 32 pages or do a 2-parter. And I was like super apprehensive about it. But
I don't have any 2-parters planned. I got the first 12 or so issues planned of my comic, and none of them are going to be 2-parters because, if my first issue's a hit, right, maybe I'll plan. But you know what I mean? I want to plan. I want Pixel Trader and Marcus and Tonicmole to be like, that was good. I'm satisfied. That was a full meal in itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'm talking nonsense, but I think it's a rookie mistake to I'm going to do a 12-issue series and maxi series that's going to change the world. Let's do it. And what's funny is one of the guys I gave advice for, I said, you're telling a 6 to 12 issue story in only 1 issue. So here's this guy with a grand idea, and I was telling him the exact opposite. You got to expand this. You're cutting out all the good, juicy details.
And, I think it's even more so true with crowdfunding. People are like, oh, I'm going to tell this big story. It's like, that's going to take you 10 years.
Right.
Half of your readers may pass away before you finish. And I'm moving.
Or lose interest or legitimately forget about it.
Right. Yeah. And so
I have an idea for outside of my comic, this big mythological tale that I want to tell. and I was floating it to Nick Axe, who I think his art style would be perfect. And he said that he would like to do it, but he would like to do it like take like 4 years and actually make like part of his channel of like the process. I said, fine, fine, like, because I don't want to do it one issue at a time. That's a story that needs to be told in whatever, 64 pages, 75 pages, whatever. But for my superhero stories, it's like a string of pearls. It's a string of pearls,
Yeah, because I have a sci-fi story that I've been developing that I want to release in. It's like Saving the World, to where there's sections of this one universe that aren't exactly connected, but they're taking place in the same thing. And I was like, no, I want to do it as graphic novels. So there'll be 3 or 4 graphic novels that are all take place in the same thing, but each one is this full story. And so, yeah, your format matters a lot. And within floppies, though, it's like introducing your high stakes. You have to earn all these things. People want to just take them. It's like, no, you can't take readers' engagement. You have to make that happen. And earning a 2-parter, right? I actually asked the readers when I was drawing number 6. I said, "Here's the deal. This would be better as a 2-parter," and they all said, "Hell yeah!"
Well, by issue 6, you established a reputation. You have a,
right.
Like I maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like I just got issue number 10.
Right.
And now you issue 11. You know what I mean? So yeah. I trust you for a 2-parter. I don't trust myself for a 2-parter yet.
Right. Well, yeah. When I did number 1, I certainly didn't think I'd get a number 2. And so when that happened, and I went and drew that, I still was like, well, yeah, but I'm not going to get a number 3. And then I was like, well, but I'm not going to get a number 4. And then by 6, I was like, well, clearly there's going to be a freaking number 7, because and so, and then, like, because I think about these things a lot, like the risks I take, like with number 9, did not have Kira and Nora in it. It was solely about this new character, Octo Girl, and I did not know. And even its tone is slightly different. It's the same teens.
That's the issue that made me realize how good you were with dialogue.
But see, it's my favorite issue I've made.
Oh, really?
And because it was what I wanted to be making this entire time. Like, there was just little things about it, of how the tone was and how the pacing was, where I was like, that's exactly what I wish I would have made with number 1. So
that was the issue that made me say this is a Love and Rockets comic.
right.
I praise, because I love Love and Rockets. The past couple of years when it's evolved into full on porn, but it
right.
Love and Rockets was character,
right?
And you fell in love with every character, and then the next issue, it would be years before you get that character again, but you didn't care because they introduced you to one. So you switched it up with Octo Girl, and I'm like, this is gonna be funny, and and then by the end of the story, I'm like, what's going on with Octo Girl? Right. Oh yeah. And then it's been a while since you had Kira, and what's going on with Kira?
I know.
So I love all of these characters, and I miss them. I wish you could do it every month, but
yeah, it's really hard.
I don't want anybody else to draw it.
Like, I have to be conscious of, because I did Octo Girl, and then I was like, okay, but I think it's time to move my story forward. I need to do this big arc I had for Lily and Wepawet, to where it introduces more of that, what's going on with there. But then everybody's like, man, I can't wait for Octo Girl to see what happens next. I was like, oh, I didn't intend on returning to her for like 4 or 5 issues or something. I didn't really have. I had some story, but nothing. So I had
that dilemma now. Are you going to break your story, give the fans what they want, or trust me, it'll all.
Right. Well, I had a full issue of Octo Girl written that I didn't know when I'd get around to it. That would have been like 25 pages. I condensed it to 8. And in fact, I feel, and I put it in number 10, I feel the condensed version is superior to the original long version. I was worried it'd suck, but then I was like, no, I had a lot of
Well, there you go.
needless dialogue littered that I cleaned out and made a really tight 8-page
R2
story.
adversary, right? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Time constraint forced you to realize what was important.
Exactly. And I ended up loving it and getting to return to Octogirl. And now
That's why I get back to the sequels. That's why I think the sequels sucked, because nobody said no to George Lucas. He had no constraints.
No, yeah, all the money, all the time.
He had all the money and all the time. Are you going to be the guy that goes, "Excuse me, George, but actually this,"
right? And so that, and so then like with this issue, I was like, oh, I have to get back to Kira Nora. It's been 2 issues since we've seen much of them. They were in number 10 at the very beginning, because I wrote that scene at the beginning just because I knew I needed to have Kira, Nora, Hobo Girl, and all of them appear. And I had a kind of funny idea for it. And so then this issue gets back to the Kira, Nora, and all that. And
are these based on kids that you hung out with? Because especially the Octogirl story, when they're all hanging out in the pool and everything. Like, I had a feeling that you knew these people. Like,
yeah, well,
people.
Octogirl, especially. These are all those. That is
like
the town I hung out in, and people similar. I mean, they're loosely based on, like, I didn't know a guy who lost his arm in an auger, but I knew people who did lose their arms in augers. So I was like, oh my God, a guy named Augie missing an arm because he put it in an auger and got it ripped off. And that's, my area, Oklahoma. It's very possible that there's always a kid with something wrong with him because of a farm accident.
Yeah.
Like this one kid had where his eye was all red because a chicken pecked him in the eye, and it broke the blood vessel or whatever. And so, there's all these people, it was largely older guys that would, I mean, it was like half of the guys who were in their 40s when I was growing up were missing an arm, a leg. Almost none of them had 10 fingers. I don't know what the hell happened throughout the 60s and 70s, but if you made it out with all limbs and all fingers, you were like, you did something amazing. So anyway, I was thinking about those things because I had felt that in Saving the World, I really didn't capture Oklahoma and Kansas as much as I should have, right? I felt that I didn't reference the area as much. And so Octogirl was all about, this is a real small town in Oklahoma, and these are the type of people, like the old man riding the lawnmower. In my small town, old men, especially if they lose their license because of DUIs or for being blind, they all ride lawnmowers because hypothetically, legally, they can, but they can't. It's like, it's still illegal, but they do it and cops don't say anything. So all these old guys are riding their lawnmowers, driving them to the bar or something. And so these were all little things. And so that one was the most influenced by. And then
is anybody being like, if they see you, like, oh geez, thanks for putting me in your comic, jerk?
No, like her friends, like Charlie is probably just me, the kind of long-haired dark guy. That was just a dark-haired guy. That's just pretty much me when I was, that age. And Augie is pretty much everybody I knew all at once to some degree. And then there was always that young kid that hung out with the older teenagers that shouldn't be, but his mom like sold weed or something. And so all these, there's nobody would be able to pick themselves out and go, hey, but there's all these themes that were, there was always the young kid that was way too young to be hanging out.
The only self-insert I ever wrote, people are like, oh, it's the patriarch me. I'm like, no, I wish. The only is Eddie. I sent the script to Tonicmole. That's my self-insert.
Right. That's someday we're going to get that done.
Someday. Yeah.
But see, yeah, Charlie from in Octo Girl is basically my self-insert, the awkward, weird dude who just stands in the background. And so, you know, that was more the closest one-to-one was that. And whereas Kira and Nora, yeah, a little bit. My wife inspired a lot of all of my characters, like all my female characters, because that's like one women I know. So like Kira is a little bit my wife, Octo Girl is a little bit my wife, and everybody is an amalgam of somebody. When I was younger, I was much more interested, like in high school, I would have like people represented in my comics or something. But then I was like, no, it's not really good because you can't know knowing someone so well that you can make them into a 3D character is kind of difficult. So it's a lot easier to.
Did you ever read Joe Matt's Peep Show? No. Well, he made a comic book that was like his. It was a lot like American Splendor. It was like
right,
brutally realistic, and to the point where he's in a comic book store himself in the comic, and he meets a couple, and the first thing he thinks is, "Look at that girl! I'd like to make it with her." And she starts talking to him, and then she introduces him to her boyfriend. He's like, "Damn, she has a boyfriend," and the boyfriend's like, "Oh, I love your comics." So they're at dinner, and now he's like lusting after the girl in their apartment. They're drinking, and he's like, "I wonder if like he'll pass out and go to sleep, and then like I could impress her, and maybe I could get her to model for me." And then he puts it all in the comic. And then the next issue, you see the real couple that are pissed off because they put the fictional couple in the comic. And the guy's like, "I thought you were my friend. You just wanted to bang my wife."
Oh,
you know
my
what I mean?
God.
And it was just like the pitfalls of putting people realistically
Right.
in. And I thought that was great because here it is, like him doing the meta story of meeting these people, and then the real people. I thought it was.
So this is what happened next.
Yeah, like that's the whole thing about Peep Show is he's a disgusting person, and he made no bones about being a disgusting person. Like
right. Yeah, and you know, some of the greatest artists is their deal. They're like, I'm a horrible person, and I'm going to tell you all about it. And
because right.
Right, because everybody's a little bit horrible, so everybody can kind of go, "Oh."
Yeah. On second thought, maybe you shouldn't publish Eddie is Doomed. By that point, people will like me with nice heroic superhero characters. I'm like, this is the real you?
Right, yeah. This is.
Oh no.
This is my real depravity.
Yeah, it's about a comic book collector who gets pissed off with his father because his father wants to retire and he has to move out of the basement. That's the plot.
Oh man,
yeah.
That's great.
We are all Eddie.
Yeah, and see, it's funny because like me and you was talking about this idea, and like I knew a guy that was largely what happened. He was a collector, just not of comics particularly, but yeah, it was his mother passed away, and his father instantly said, "Okay, you got to get out." Right? Like come to find out this whole time, it was like just the mother saying, "No, let him stay here," whatever. And so, yeah, that inspired, and then combined with various other like collectors I knew. Now I said that, I forgot one thing. Dave, the comic book owner from number 5, he's actually Hall of Heroes, and Dave is actually a real place, and that Dave is the owner of the comic book store.
Okay.
Dave Gwynn and the Hall of Heroes in Ponca City. So that was the comic book store I grew up in and stuff. And Dave's the owner. And so in number 5, I just made it, I called it Hall of Legends, I think. And then he was like, "Why didn't you just call it Hall of Heroes?" And I was like, I'm in that thing where if it's Coca-Cola, you just change it slightly. And so I did it so anyways, in this issue, he's reopening because in number 5, his store got destroyed, and he called it Hall of Heroes. So it matches but Dave is a real person. And then in this issue, you meet a guy who hangs out at the comic book store called Pookie, and he is in fact a real person named Pookie. that is a guy from the comic book store. And so the comic book store is really where most of the people, real life people, are, because that's the only physical store that I actually sell Saving the World at. And so I have a little group of fans there that it humors them that, oh, that's the comic book store, and Dave and stuff like
that's
that.
fun. That's fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that is the direct references.
I'm gonna check the campaign again. What are we up to? All right, 56 people. 56
Nice.
people. Nice. Tonicmole. We got to keep him inside the house. We don't want him wandering the streets.
Yeah.
Just to the comic book store, back maybe a Taco Bell once in a while. That's it. We don't want him wandering the streets. Just keep him away from your pets, your kids, your loved ones. Stay strapped to that board, drawing those comics. That's what we want.
Now, who wants to hear some fun numbers?
Sure, we got numbers.
Yeah, I got some numbers. Okay, so Saving the World number 9 was at $2,417 after 3 hours. And we're at 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
So we're ahead of number 9. And Saving the World number 10, let's see, 4 hours, we were at $2,124. So we're ahead of both number 9 and number 10.
Oh, good.
So far.
There you go. Nice.
So everything's looking pretty good.
So I'm trying to think, maybe for issue number 12, I'll have some unnecessary surgery and promote your comic again. Maybe.
That seems to be the thing.
Yeah. I'll injure myself at work, and then we'll come in and
we'll come up with something.
I'll figure out. I'm a klutz. I'll figure out some way to.
That's right.
That's good, man. I like I said, I don't have a jealous bone in my body about this kind of stuff. I don't have this socialist worldview of what are they, an end sum game. Like, there's not just this much money in the world. Wealth.
Right.
I like, people have to realize that at some point in human history there was no money, there was no wealth, and we generate this wealth. You know what I mean? So like we all laugh at the Austin Powers when he asked for $1 million, and then he says $100 billion. This 1963, there's not even that much. We all laugh, right, but we don't get it. But now there is. Where did that money come from? It came from work. It came from guys like Tonicmole making a comic book, guys like me building buildings, Marcus, fixing appliances. We all generate wealth. And now there's wealth in the world, and it's not a end some lost game. So doing well only makes this spotlight come over here, and and then there's more people interest. If Cyberfrog or ISOM isn't there, it just means we got to work harder.
Right, right.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? I like the fact, I particularly like the ISOM comics, but I'm glad that they're doing well.
Right. Yeah, and see, that's
rising tide floats all boats. If and if Marvel and DC had their druthers, they would be looking over here, getting guys like Tonicmole.
Yeah, and there's certainly in crowdfunding, people get a little, oh no, that person's doing good.
Why is that comic doing good and mine's not doing bad? Well,
right.
They didn't take money out of your pocket.
Right, and like.
And I can understand getting a little butt hurt, you know what I mean? But that's not that guy's fault.
Right. If
my comic crashes and burns, it's not Tonicmole's fault.
Right.
Nope.
Like, I don't believe in voodoo.
Right. We all secretly get jealous of somebody. Even me. I'll go, God, mother. But the difference is knowing that it's an irrational feeling, right? That you go, I should be making more than that hack or whatever. But knowing that, that's just human nature. It's fine.
Somebody always has a better house. Somebody always has a hotter wife.
Right.
Somebody has a better job. Somebody's got a bigger pool. You can't live like that.
Right. And see, like I've take like these whole 4 years, there's tons of people. The mermaid comic is going to make a shit ton more than I make on this one. And Monk sold the art thing, his art book, wildly outsold any of my comics. Everybody around me does better, but I don't need to do better. I got to pay bills. That's all I got to do. Like that's back to that original thing we were talking about, to where I found that there's some purity in just needing money, right? For your art that is counter to what I've always thought of, to where, you see a lot of people fighting over honor and pride, right? It has nothing to do with money. They could have made enough money, but it wasn't enough because they wanted to beat this guy. Whereas I got to pay my bills or they take my stuff away. Like, that's all. There's no pride. There's no dignity. There is no like, oh, I'm better than this person. It's, I got to pay my bills. And there's a purity in that I didn't expect, when I was younger, thinking about art, where, no, it's about the art. It's like, no, there's a corruption when it's about the art, because there's a pride and there's a validating yourself. And that to quote the movie I dislike the most, Batman versus Superman. Ironically, it has a quote that I think about all the time that is excellent, where he goes, that's the fear and the anger or something that makes good men cruel. And I go, that's good. Like, there's these emotions that corrupt you, and you can be a good person, but it makes you bad. And jealousy and the desire for honor and glory and all these things are certainly, even they corrupt worse than money, because at least money is tangible, right? Do you got it or do you not? Is the bank happy or not? Versus you never have enough honor and all this stuff, and you'll do anything for it and attack everybody else. And so
I think on this philosophical moment, I'm gonna we'll close down, because I can only sit in this position for so long. I'm amazed I made it hours. For those of you who don't know, I had 6 hernias repaired yesterday by a robot, and that was just a surgeon. This guy had no personality whatsoever. You should have seen this guy. He made that guy from The Big Bang Theory, the stand-up comedian. I was trying to joke with him like I do to everybody. He's like, okay, like he's like, oh, this is what they said about bedside manner. I'll stand here and do this guy, because he's nervous, But oh my god! So they actually stuck these robotic fingers into my, like, inflated my stomach, and you know what I mean. So I got this freaking girdle on. So I had to be like sitting down. So I'm amazed I sit this long. So let's check out your campaign one more time. 56 people. That's great. I was hoping we'd do 50 people, so I'm glad to see that we
did it.
We also stayed longer than I planned. But man, I'm cheering this on. For those guys, it's a good comic. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't anybody else but Tonicmole. He's a good guy. He's one of my favorite people. Pixel Trader will be on next week. It should be okay next week. I don't know if I'm going to do my Sunday comics. I'm going to leave that. I didn't create the stream for it because I don't know how I'm going to feel. So I might just take off until Tuesday. Back with my next schedule, and I'm in the talks with some big names again. I just keep whittling them down. See, all right. I'll do your show for an hour if you promise to leave me alone. That's the secret. And Saving the World. Let's put the link up one more time. And anything else anybody want to say? Pixel, Tonic. I can't find the link. Oh, here we go. Here's the link.
I'm good.
All right. Let's overthink the movie. I'm looking at some of the quotes that I missed. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, Tonicmole. Thanks for back in the comic. Rising tide floats all boats. It's a good comic. And get all the issues, man. Get all the issues. They're so good. They're fun. Great dialogue. I love the characters. I fell in love with every one of the characters. All right. Anything you want to say, Tonic? I'm talking.
John, I want to thank you.
Oh, no problem.
For having me on. We did a great job. Big time success, and you got to take care of yourself.
Yeah, I gotta get into a lay down position. All right. Bye bye, everybody.
See you guys.